This audiobook will provide you with a summary of emotional intelligence and its importance in every facet of your life. It aims to provide actionable tips and strategies to improve business performance and relationships through the practical application of emotional intelligence. The audiobook will benefit everyone finding it difficult to control their emotions, both in their personal and professional life. If you are someone who wants to do better in your workplace and navigate through complex workplace politics in a better way, you must work on your emotional intelligence. Similarly, if you want to improve your relationship with your spouse, partner, or family, you might have to work on your emotional quotient. This audiobook will serve as an effective guide for anyone who wants to understand what emotional intelligence is and the ways it can be useful to comprehend the self in a much better way. Without a doubt, most people love to be surrounded by friends and family. The people who we interact with remind us of our nature. If you have a few friends, then you would obviously argue that you are an antisocial individual. On the contrary, another person will claim that they are friendly because of the huge social circle they have. Owing to the varying personalities that people have, this affects the way they express their emotions. Also, the needs and expectations that we have will have a huge influence on how we express ourselves. Maneuvering past our personalities to express ourselves prudently is never easy. It requires some form of cleverness, more so if you wish to succeed in life. Emotional intelligence comes in handy in such cases. Self-aware leader is open to learn, develop, and empower others. He or she will go the extra mile to overcome weaknesses. They set high standards for themselves and others. Such a leader is a good listener and understands others. He or she respects the difference in opinion and skillfully handles the most challenging workplace conflicts and conversations. It is essential to know that it's not all about you. Leaders with higher emotional intelligence have better decision-making power. They are better influencers, motivators, and can engage people effectively, as emotions are the primary determinants of behaviors professionally and personally. Emotional intelligence helps you develop an understanding of not just your own emotions, but those of the people around you too. This helps you make better connections, forge meaningful relationships, and even influence the way that you make others feel whenever they're around you. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to increase intimacy in your relationships, both personal and professional, by learning how to use your emotions while understanding emotional reactions of the other person. By understanding emotions better, you not only improve your personal life, but you are seen as more of a leader in the workplace. Learning how to better interact with others opens up many more career opportunities. Chapter 1. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence helps a leader reason along the lines of creativity, and when combined with technical expertise, becomes the most powerful driver for leadership success. This makes emotional intelligence a very important character trait for business executives and team leaders. Our emotions greatly influence our life. Our feelings influence our thinking patterns, which in turn shape our behavior and attitude, the two important elements that affect our decisions in life. Our life is a product of our decisions. If you think rationally and clearly, you are likely to make informed, sound, and favorable decisions. To live a good life, one where you have healthy relationships, you need to learn how to manage your emotions. Unfortunately, prowess at emotional management is not easy to come by, and very few of us have it. Many of us are akin to ticking time bombs, waiting to explode the instant something undesirable happens. Occasional bursts of anger and other emotions that can leave a bad taste in your life and that of others is normal, but if these outbursts become a habit, the result is likely to be grave consequences in your personal and professional lives. Lack of emotional control can manifest in many ways. It can appear as constant arguments with your partner or failing to get along with your siblings. It can manifest as a strongly rooted anger and hurt against your parents, or a lack of friends thanks to a tendency to lose your cool. It can also manifest as constant arguments with your boss or colleagues despising you because they cannot stand your volatile behavior, or other relational problems stemming primarily from a lack of emotional maturity or control. Only by improving your level of emotional control can you equip yourself with the power to build intimate, thriving relationships that add true value to your life. Your emotions guide and influence everything you do. If you are not aware of them or know how to tackle them effectively, you will allow them to override your intellect, sanity, and wisdom, and they will influence you into making hasty and irrational decisions. Additionally, since we are social creatures, you need to mingle with, stay connected to, collaborate with, and influence people around you to achieve your various personal and professional goals. That is only possible when you can handle your emotions well and give the same comfort to others too. When you are emotionally intelligent, you can avoid reacting to your partner's cranky attitude, and instead of fighting with them about it, try to temper your frustration and provide them the comfort they need to feel better. Talk the matter out with your loved one once the volatile situation has subsided. By doing something as simple as taking a time out and not letting your anger about your partner's temperamental issues control you, you effectively diffuse a relational bomb. Had it not been for your high emotional intelligence, you would have easily given in to the urge to react negatively to your partner's constant bickering, which would have only worsened the issue. Emotional intelligence is a tool that helps you nurture empathy towards others so you can become compassionate, understanding, and positive. This paves the way for healthy, beautiful relationships. Characteristics of people with high emotional intelligence. Any highly successful people have high UK. It is found that about 80 of the people who do not perform well in their work and their personal life have low IQ. People with high EQ are born with it. Some people are good when it comes to negotiation and talking people into doing something for a very young age. This does not make EK birth luck. IQ can be developed at later stages of life as well. Flexibility does not indicate weakness, simply because a person is flexible when it comes to certain process. It does not mean that he shows less importance to the process or is weak. For instance, if a guy is flexible enough to cancel his meeting to pick up the kid on the day his wife has to do so, it does not mean that he gives less importance to the meeting or is weak. When it comes to sharing work with his wife, he is very adaptive to the condition and has an internal locus of control. Flexibility also plays an important role when more work is assigned in a short period or when a person in the team is very difficult to be with. Assertiveness. People with high EQ would stand for their rights, frank and forthright. They speak up what they think is appropriate. This trait would solve a lot of problems. For instance, if two employees are not getting along and one is disturbing the other in many ways, instead of escalating the problem to the team leader, a high EQ person would take the other guy out for a snack, talk about what is bothering him, and how they both can work towards solving it. Perception of others' emotion. Have you heard of the term standing in others' shoes? A person with high EQ would be able to do so. They would be able to read the emotions and feelings of a certain person and would also understand the situation. This would help them to manage their emotions accordingly. For instance, when the output of the team is very low, the manager cannot shout instantly. He should be able to identify the real problem through emotions. If the person is not confident in what he does, and that's the reason for the decrease in performance, then the manager should shift to the guide mode and assure him that he would be with him all through the process, providing him guidance. The same goes for personal relationships as well. If your spouse is angry, you need the help of the comforting role. If he or she is lonely, then you should showcase a happy or entertaining emotion. Influence the emotion of others. When a person is angry, the person with high EQ would be able to talk him out of it and help him resolve the problems and change his mood or emotion to normal. Just perceiving the emotion would not help in any way. He should be able to positively influence the emotion of others and regulate it. If your partner is depressed, you should be able to talk them out of it and help them. Take the next step. Just identifying that they are depressed would not help them to come over it. self-motivated, and have high self-esteem. High EQ. People would not need the carrot or the stick to motivate them. They would assign themselves a proper goal and would work towards it, even when there is not reward associated with it. Building their esteem would be their reward. They have a high self-esteem. They are confident in what they do and are ready to take up new challenger, to challenge themselves, even when they fail in a process. They would resilient instantly and work again towards the same goal. Beneath their stress, when a person is stressed, he would not have any traits which would tag him as a person with very high EK. A person with very high EK would find a way to reduce their stress level. There is no concrete method to do so. Each one would take up a different method, but ultimately they would reduce their stress level so that they can see the problem with a new perspective and also manage your emotions as well as that of others. Socially aware of the signs, reading others' body signs is a very important trait. He who can read those signs would be able to identify whether he has chosen the right person for the job or not. He can also identify whether the person is happy for what he is and at the job he does. This would also help to predict his actions and emotions to an extent. How you can improve your emotional intelligence. Self-management for self-regulation. Understand first that everyone has a choice when it comes to how we react to situations. Maybe you want to categorize emotions as good and bad, but there are no such things as good and bad emotions. How you react to these emotions, however, is what matters the most. Empathy. You can only become more empathetic by hanging out with people. But if you really want to improve your levels of empathy, you need to start to hang out with strangers. You probably already know how your friends react to your presence, so meeting new people and spending time with them can only be beneficial. You will be able to hear about different experiences, and that will put your own life experience into a new perspective. Social skills, verbal and non-verbal communications are key here. You need to learn to choose your words wisely. In fact, what you can't have only one way to deal with customers or people. Your words and moves needs to be tailored to the person you are interacting with. You can't act the same when you want to sail a car and when you listen to someone talking about their children. Practice techniques of salesmen if you work in that branch, but also learn what to say about children. It seems like a mammoth task to learn all these different ways of acting, but it's worth it. Also, practice being a good team member. It really costs nothing to compliment others, make them feel safe, have a nice word towards them, smile as often as possible. It's incredible how your mood can affect the mood of others. Take the initiative to be the one who manages a group. Listen first, and then try to organize things inside the team. Build bonds between each member. Make everyone feel at ease and welcome to participate anytime they want to. In other words, be a great leader. As you can see, the work you need to do on yourself is the biggest one. It's not necessarily the most important one, since each and every one of the 4 pillars is essential in emotional intelligence. Chapter 2. Controlling your emotions. Emotions are necessary. The biggest issue in the advancement of AI is the inability to technologically mimic emotions. We can mimic the ability to think logically and store all the information we want into the minds of robots. However, we struggle to make them feel as we do. It is challenging to mimic the reactions of humans on an emotional level because we don't even fully understand them ourselves. When they become out of control, they can be extremely detrimental to our health and our overall status in life. Emotional reactions can lead to physical damage that might include harming someone else or harming their property. Many people do illegal things and other vile acts based on how they emotionally feel. Staying composed feeling the emotion is something that you might never be able to control. It is how you react to that emotion that will determine your ability to stay composed and not get too heated about a certain issue. When you are starting to feel angry or agitated, then it will be up to you, and only you, to start to calm yourself down. If you can't do that, then you won't be able to have a proper emotional reaction. Start by shifting your focus from the thing that first caused the emotion. When you are reading an article you hate, turn your phone off. If someone made you mad, leave the room they're in. Separating yourself from the thing that has caused you so much pain in the first place is the best way that you can ensure you are not still surrounded by something that makes you upset. Do not let emotions ruin your life. Emotions can ruin people's lives. How many fights that started verbally led to someone being murdered? How many relationships have been wrecked because of an emotional fight, leading to someone saying something they didn't mean? If we don't get a grasp on our emotions and handle them in a healthy, proper way, we can start to realize that they mess up our lives. Don't feel bad because you experienced an emotion. Sometimes, shame can come from guilt or jealousy simply after we have felt that emotion, because we let it affect us in the first place. You might feel bad about yourself for being sad in the first place. Don't let emotion feed off more emotions, or else you are so far removed from the real reaction in the first place that it will be hard for you to understand your emotional state and why you might be feeling a certain way. Staying mindful and realistic. Remain as mindful as possible when you are experiencing your emotions. Remind yourself that this is a reaction and not something that is necessarily the truth. Mindfulness will take practice and isn't something you can achieve right away. The more you stay aware in any given situation, the easier it will be to come up with the proper reactions. The more self-aware you become, the easier it will be to recognize when you are having a negative reaction. Remember that negativity doesn't always equate to reality. Emotions can trigger other memories and reactions that make the emotion we're feeling even trickier. Chapter 3. Developing Emotional Intelligence. Now you've seen how emotional intelligence creates an amazing quality of life in practice. Let's get down to learning how to practice it. Developing self-awareness. Emotions are very powerful things. Let me demonstrate how they have the power to control you. In short, the way you perceive a situation is through the filter. The filter is how your belief systems and thought processes interpret the situation. This then creates an appropriate emotion depending on how you perceive the situation, which then leads to your actions and reactions. If you do not develop consciousness before your emotions take hold of you, you are at risk of coming across as inconsiderate, disruptive, and conflictive to those around you, and more importantly, you can develop a sense of hopelessness in yourself due to the fact you can't control yourself. By becoming self-aware, you have to develop a sense of mindfulness. Basically, you have to live in the moment to consciously pick up on your emotions as they happen. There are several ways to do this, which I will now explain. The first thing to understand when seeking emotional awareness is that emotions are subjective. This means that the things that trigger different emotions in you are particular to you. There is no specific list of situations that could arouse different emotions. There are many reasons emotions are subjective, but it's mainly due to nurture rather than nature. Basically, how you were raised and what environments you are used to create your emotional quotient. Journal your emotions. The first step is to recognize emotional patterns within you and what situations trigger them. Obviously, it's easy for emotions to creep up on you subconsciously, and next thing you know, you're acting on them in a way that you shouldn't. So to recognize patterns to pick up on in the future, you should start by looking back at past situations that you know you could have avoided or acted differently in if you stopped to think about it. Get a notepad and write down the situation, the emotion that you felt, how you felt it. It is important you regularly keep track of your emotions and outcomes through these methods on a weekly basis. Simple way to do it would be to sit down for 1 hour on a Sunday night and list all of the strong emotions you felt and the outcomes for that week. Reward yourself for the positive situations and write down how you can turn the negative situations around in the future. If you can do this every night, even better. Consistently being aware of your emotions after they happen will develop the habit of awareness in the present. How to improve emotional intelligence? Developing self-awareness. It can help you know your strengths and weaknesses, and it is considered to be one of the main elements of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness is nothing else than the process of being able to know yourself which is exactly what you need to focus on. That includes recognizing the emotions as they occur, as well as feelings that come with them, and realizing what your thoughts and actions based on them are. Knowing yourself also means knowing your strengths and weaknesses. This has to do a lot with confidence, but we will move towards confidence tips a bit later. Your goal should be to be assertive, or, to explain that better, confidently communicate your ideas and thoughts and be able to justify them with good arguments. Accept who you are. What it comes down to is that everyone is unique. However, you should become aware that that is an excellent thing. There is no need to worry about the things that you are not good at. Instead of that, a much better way is to accept who you are and look for ways to improve. For instance, you can always learn a new skill by applying to a class in your community. Acknowledge your successes. One of the reasons that people have confidence issues is because they focus on things they are struggling with. Instead of that, try thinking of all the right things you have done in the last couple of days. Celebrate the little successes, such as managing to complete the task at work before the deadline. Don't accept the positive stuff as a routine. The point is that you are doing a bunch of great things, and you should know that. Don't compare yourself to others. This one is related to the first tip in this subsection. Never compare your life to someone else's, because we all have unique life paths, and that's the beauty of it. Trust me, you can never win when you compare yourself to others. Instead, try this. Compare yourself to the version of yourself from a couple of months or years ago. What changed? What other changes you can make? There's things you like about yourself. When you have a bit of time with yourself, try listing a couple of good things that you did during the day, or simply the traits you like about yourself. It doesn't have to take long. 2 minutes is enough to think and acknowledge those things. It can be anything from I am thoughtful to our dog, because I feed him every morning, to I am a funny person, and I can always make my friends laugh. Taking a couple of seconds to acknowledge those things will make you feel better and make you realize your worth. How to master self-regulation. Self-regulation allows you to control your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behaviors in a manner that allows you to avoid reacting to things emotionally, but to respond to them in a thoughtful manner. This ability allows you to handle disruptive impulses and emotions effectively without letting them cloud your judgment. If you're considering breaking up with your current boyfriend or girlfriend because you are sure the two of you do not complement each other, you think about this decision several times before taking the final step forward. If you're considering a certain partnership offer, you do not accept the offer right away, but instead you go over it a few times to make sure you employ the best response and make an informed decision that ends up being fruitful for both of you in the long run. There are different strategies you can employ to practice self-regulation. Learn to relax yourself and not react to your impulses. We react to our emotions and impulses because we allow the emotions and the overwhelming feelings brought on by those emotions to override our ability to think lucidly. If you are scared of giving a presentation to a potential business investor, you are likely to allow the fear to increase your anxiety, which can keep you from giving an effective presentation. This happens because extreme stress and anxiety activates your body's stress response. This response increases the production of cortisol, the stress hormone that produces different changes in your body and that compels you to react to things. As you already know, reacting to things without emotional intelligence only makes problems worse. To stay calm and sustain good relationships, learn to relax yourself so you do not pay heed to your impulses and instead choose its alternative, calmer route. Below are a few effective techniques you can use to teach yourself how to stay calm when in disruptive situations and then build a habit of staying calm at all times. Learn to be mindful of your emotions. Self-regulation is only possible when you become aware of your emotions. While you now know how to do that, thanks to the previous chapter, you must emphasize that point again here. To be mindful of your emotions. Now teach yourself how to do everything mindfully. Whether you are cooking, eating, playing, mopping the floor, typing on your computer, or doing anything else, Do it with utmost concentration and focus on every step of the task. This helps you do the task mindfully and stay aware of all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions you experience throughout that duration. If you feel even a tinge of some sort of strong emotion bubbling inside you, pause and explore it so you can understand and then deal with it correctly. With time, you can master this exercise, and you will automatically start doing everything mindfully. Allow strong emotions to subside at their own pace. When you hold on to different emotions and increase their intensity, reacting to situations without thinking becomes the norm. Remember, every emotion should enter your system, peak, subside, and then exit your body and mind without becoming extremely intense. Holding on to emotions is what aggravates and intensifies them. To keep that from happening, allow your emotions, particularly strong emotions that can make you react raucously, to subside at their own pace. Every time you feel angry, sad, frustrated, anxious, or experience any other emotion that can intensify into an undesirable emotion you do not wish to feel, breathe consciously at your natural pace and bring your attention to your breath. Closely observing your breathing helps you stop focusing too intently on the emotion you are experiencing. As you pay attention to your breath, you will slowly feel the emotion's intensity decreasing at its own pace, allowing you to think clearly. As is the case with the other exercises in this guidebook, consistently practicing this one helps you master it. Think things through. Whenever you experience an upsetting situation, one that seems too good to be true, or an overwhelming one and are tempted to quickly react to it, pause and use this pause to think. For example, if your partner asks you to move in with her, do not whimsically say yes, only to regret it later. Instead, let your partner know how touched you are by the gesture and are extremely tempted to move in with her, but would like to discuss a few things with her before making the final decision. It will take you a few occurrences to gain the ability to think things through, but with time and practice, you will get there. Once you start to think clearly on different matters before making the final call, others will do the same, and you are likely to experience less turbulence in your different personal and professional relationships. Give others the benefit of the doubt. Before jumping to a certain conclusion, train yourself to give others the benefit of the doubt. If your best friend acts agitated with you one day, do not assume that he hates you or does not want to be friends with you anymore. Instead, give him the benefit of the doubt and think about how he may be experiencing some real problems that are reflecting in his behavior. Before making a certain decision, you need to encourage yourself to have thorough discussions with people you are upset with or those you think are upset with you. Always talk the matter out with the other person, so you mend the bond before it strains some more. You will be surprised at how effective this tactic is and how it helps bring people together. Even so, talking it out may not solve the problems in the relationship the first time. Don't give up too quickly, though. Developing emotional awareness and communication skills takes time. As you continue to use the methods taught in this book, you will become better at solving relationship problems. Chapter 4. How emotional intelligence can improve the quality of your life in all areas. Life is all about relationships, and relationships are built on emotions. So naturally, becoming self-aware and therefore controlling your emotions is vital in having success both in your personal and professional life. Being in tune with your emotions requires that you have the right answers to the questions which have been pointed out. But this chapter does not focus on whether you answered these questions correctly or not. Rather, it pays attention to the importance of portraying emotional intelligence. Essentially, the main question we are trying to put across is, why is it important to be emotionally intelligent? Perhaps you have the perception that emotional intelligence will only benefit individuals who often communicate with others. Well, this is not the case. Generally, a key will lead to a balanced life. This is because it helps in improving your life in all areas. Every aspect of your life will depend on how well you deal with your emotions. Enhances physical health. Your physical health and well-being are closely tied to your emotional intelligence. Being physically healthy implies that you have to be ready to acknowledge the fact that you should be healthy. It begins with your self-awareness about your current condition. Equally, effectively dealing with stress is an integral part of being physically healthy. If you cannot cope with stress, this will have detrimental impacts on your health. Improves mental health. Still, it goes without saying that stress will affect your mental well-being. Aside from this, Aki will have a huge influence on your overall attitude towards life through emotional intelligence. You will have a unique way of dealing with depression, mood swings, and anxiety. An emotionally intelligent person will have a different perspective towards life. This is because they will have every reason to be happy and enjoy themselves. Arguably, this has a positive impact on their mental health, leads to better relationships. Being in tune with your emotions helps you understand your feelings and manage them effectively. This understanding also stretches to knowing that your mood swings affects those around you. Keeping your emotions in check will guarantee that you experience blissful relationships with people. Ordinarily, people connect well with those who comprehend the feelings they are going through. Consider the usual relationships we are often involved in. Usually, people are inclined to fall in love with those who care about them. Likewise, they become friends with individuals who are compassionate and welcoming. As such, emotional intelligence will transform one into a person capable of committing themselves to productive affairs. Increased success. One of the main elements of emotional intelligence is that one ought to characterize a high level of intrinsic motivation. Taking this into consideration, AQ will highly likely lead to success. This is for the reasons that a smart individual will reduce their likelihood of procrastinating activities. Moreover, they have a high confidence in their abilities. This will have a positive impact on the projects they handle. Similarly, your emotional intelligence will help you see past the physical rewards that you will get after achieving a set goal. Oftentimes, people are blinded by rewards such as money. We tend to focus on what we get in return after achieving a particular feat. Unfortunately, this drives us into obsessions. People end up developing the perception that money or fame will lead them to happiness. Truth be told, it never does. In fact, it leads to depression when folks later realize that they are not happy in spite of all the money and fame they have amassed. Accordingly, emotional intelligence gives one a reason to see far beyond material benefits. Ultimately, there is a satisfying feeling that keeps one focused on their goal over the long haul. Improved leadership skills, the potency to know what resonates with other people, will undoubtedly lead to better relationships being created at work. Individuals with high EQS will therefore become better leaders. These are ideal leaders in an ordinary working environment simply because they understand the needs of other workers. Beyond this, they also know how their needs can be met without causing any inconveniences. In the end, this leads to a comfortable working environment where employees always feel motivated. There is a greater value gained through emotional intelligence. Besides improving one's personal relationships, AQ can also help them deal with common physical and mental health issues. With the numerous benefits gained through emotional intelligence, there is a dire need to know how one can boost their EQ. Self-control also covers the ability to endure delayed gratification. This is the ability to endure sacrificing short-term comforts now for the vision of success in the long term. Emotional intelligence means, although you may want to give up or procrastinate now because you feel stressed or upset, looking at the bigger picture and realizing how you could feel later on if you stick to it gives you emotional control and self-control over your action, along with the motivation to keep going. Self-motivation thinking like this means you are far more likely to put in the work now, being happy in the knowledge that the hard work you put in now will pay off later. Being assured of your own abilities will also increase self-confidence, which overlaps with social skills too. Stress management, being self-aware, means you understand that stress is simply caused by your own perception of a situation. Usually people's perceptions are blown up due to the negative emotions controlling them. causing bad decisions to be made. Assessing the positives and negatives of a situation means you're in check with what needs to be done to resolve the situation. Being in control, even under pressure, means you will never have to get hung up on stress again. Someone with a high emotional intelligence is self-aware enough to understand and control positive and negative emotion. What you want to prevent is an increase of negative feelings that could ultimately lead to much more dangerous issues like stress, anxiety, and even depression. Mental and physical health are more important than ever, and we must take care of them. Stress can be both mental and physical, and it often comes from situations and responsibilities that are somewhat not so important in our lives. It's because we don't pay attention on how we react to the small pressures and obligations accumulating that makes us think our stress is out of our control. Once you can recognize what stresses you out, learn how to regulate it, do some meditation every day, find a hobby that relaxes you, socialize, and talk about your feelings, stop caring too much about negative criticism. You can also try visualization. See yourself coping with the feeling of stress, managing successfully your task despite the stress you felt during the process. Study conducted in 2014 showed that people with higher EQ tend to have lower levels of stress, saying that the ability to regulate perceived emotions like stress directly impact their satisfaction. In other words, emotionally intelligent people are happier because they can cope with their emotions and adapt their behavior accordingly, making better decisions. Emotions also dictate our decision-making process. Negative emotions often affect the way we solve problems and the way we think about a choice we need to make. The ability to recognize emotions makes it possible to separate the information we need and the ones we don't want to interfere with our decision-making process. Individuals who are emotionally intelligent can sort their emotions to remove the ones that aren't relevant in the situation they are and keep the ones that matter and will be helpful when making the decision. Great self-esteem. We already talked about self-confidence and how you can improve your emotional intelligence by working on your self-confidence. Having said that, it becomes obvious that emotional intelligence helps to boost our self-esteem. Indeed, many studies conducted in universities and schools showed a positive relation between emotional intelligence and self-esteem. These studies show that students with lower self-esteem often contributes to psychological issues. They also suggest that emotional intelligence can help them overcome their psychological problems. Simply put, improving your emotional intelligence will boost your self-esteem, and if your self-esteem increases, your emotional intelligence will improve. Be careful. It also works with low self-esteem and low emotional intelligence. So make sure you work on that self-esteem or emotional intelligence. Leadership skills to lead a team. You must be able to understand and help with their needs. If you can do that, you can inspire them to work towards a common goal, and that is invaluable in business growth. Being able to control emotions and not base decisions on negative emotions, whilst also evaluating the positives and negatives of an outcome, means quick and informed decisions can be made to move a project in the right direction. It will probably make them feel angry too, or even upset. You may have good skills, but making your team members feel angry or upset about you makes you a boss, not a leader. Great leader is someone who can control their emotions and adjust their behavior around others. An individual with high EQ is more likely to leave negative feelings that have nothing to do at the workplace at home. Great leader will make sure everybody feels good and that all his team members talk to each other. That way, everyone has a great self-esteem, everyone socializes, and everyone learns how to control their emotions. If people see that everyone is making an effort so that the team can function well, they are more likely to do so as well. Protects you from bad behaviors. We should be honest and admit that we all have or had some kind of self-destructive behavior. These include smoking, drinking, drug use, or being violent towards others. However, research shows that when you have higher emotional intelligence, the chances are that these bad behaviors will manifest themselves at a lower level or even disappear altogether. You will learn how to collaborate with others. This might be particularly important in your workplace. We know that an increased number of companies demand a high level of teamwork from their employees. If you have the ability to understand your co-workers, it will enable you to get along with them. That will allow you to deliver better results and move to your shared goals more quickly. You will become more empathetic, understanding the feelings of those who are close to you, whether we are talking about your partners, friends, or co-workers, is important. If you develop a skill to sense what other people are feeling, you will be able to moderate your actions and adapt them accordingly. Decision-making in your life is molded by your everyday decisions. Simply put, deciding to work out for 30 minutes every morning will over time create a healthy, energetic, low-stress, and happier lifestyle. Deciding to lie in bed instead and eat junk food to save time will, over time, create an unhealthy, low-energy, depressive lifestyle. It's the small decisions you make that don't seem like they mean a lot that eventually lead you to success or to failure. That's why basing decisions on logical, educated thoughts rather than current emotions, which could either be positive or negative, is imperative to success. Being self-aware of your emotional state and controlling it means making smarter decisions. Believe it or not, it's easier to make an emotional decision than a logic one. When it comes to logic, you have all those various scenarios to analyze and estimate. However, emotional decisions require you to focus on emotion, and don't forget, emotions are something that you assess and manage every day. If you develop your E key and become good at that, the chances are that you will make emotional decisions a lot faster. It has been found that emotionally intelligent people are not affected by anxiety when making decisions, but people with low emotional intelligence are influenced by anxiety in their decision-making. Social skills networking is key in business, and as they say, business is built on relationships. Social skills are also key to making new personal friends, so social skills help in every aspect of life. Relationship management. This is similar to social skills, but on a more personal level. Happiness depends a lot on our relationships, so building and maintaining deep and long-lasting relationships with partners, spouses, and family is vital to leading a happy life. Being able to use empathy to influence the emotions of others will provide a core tool to ensuring relationships stay happy and conflict is always resolved or avoided. As you can see, emotional intelligence is applicable to all walks of life, starting within us in maintaining a healthy mind and body, leading to external relationships, both personally and professionally. Developing emotional intelligence will truly allow us to become the masters of our own minds and will help us succeed in all walks of life. With the internal and external peace and confidence developed through emotional intelligence, we will be well on our way to achieving successful and, most importantly, happy lives. Chapter 5. Social Awareness Strategies. It is important to pay enough attention to ourselves and our own feelings. But once we have mastered those, we can start to become more socially aware with an ability to pick up on the feelings of others. Being socially aware will require you to be conscious of the world that we live in, how it directly impacts some people, and how we all have different pasts and emotions. Social awareness requires you to recognize that one person might believe a certain thing because of the way that they were raised. You also have to understand how hard it might be for them to change that way of thinking because of the implications or their belief setting. Even though you might believe something to be obviously true, that doesn't mean that others will see things in the same light. Social awareness requires you to understand what other people are needing while having the abilities to come up with strategies that help them. You should be able to see when someone is hurting, struggling, or in pain on an emotional level, while understanding what tools they might need to help them feel better. You can't cure their mood right away, but you can help them find something that they need to make them feel better. Mastering social awareness. The first step of becoming socially aware is realizing that you do need to be more conscious of the needs of others in the first place. Everyone is responsible for themselves Of course, but you also need to be conscious of how you're affecting others and what you might do that directly impacts other people. You have to figure out the needs of others that you care about, especially to ensure that you are taking care of both you and them. Then, you can start to pick up on what people are thinking and find ways to better manage the situation. Look for ways to improve your social awareness in all interactions, not just ones that feel more important to you. Remember, it's a practice, and the more effort you put in now, the more it will show in a positive way later on. Listen to your surroundings. Take in the world you exist in, the neighborhood that affects your world, and even how the room might play an influence on your emotions and how others are feeling. When someone seems snappy or distressed, ask yourself if it could be the place that you are at that is making them upset. They might not realize that the lighting in the room is making them anxious, but you can, so you could turn off a light and turn on a more soothing one to help alleviate their anxieties. Recognize the diversity among certain individuals and allow yourself to be open to these different kinds of people. Some people might seem stubborn or stuck in their ways, and it feels like you can't reason with them. If you try to focus on their individual needs and determine what can be done to help them on a specific level, then no one is too stubborn to change their views. You just can't influence them the same way you would a person that's more open to new ideas and beliefs. Now remember that different situations will have opposite effects on some people. Someone with a high EQ won't treat two individuals the same way because they understand just how different two seemingly similar people can be. Be open to others. When we start to shut people out of our lives, we can start to create serious issues. There are some individuals that you might never want to be around and that you strive to avoid, and this can be fine. However, if you don't let new people in your life and shut others out right when you meet them, then it will affect you in the long run. Don't separate someone from your life just because they seem different to you. You might find that you learn more from individuals that are different than you do than from people that you share interests with. Focus on learning more. Sometimes you might think you know a person, but then they start revealing stories and telling more parts of their life that alter your perspective on them. Always be open to learning more about certain individuals. You can never fully get to know someone enough, so don't limit yourself with what questions you might ask them or what conversation topics you choose to implement with that other person. You can learn more about the people that you spend every single day with. Even if you might think you know someone better than they know themselves, there's a good chance you still have more learning to do. Learn how to listen to others. One of the biggest issues with communication is that we don't fully listen to others. We hear the words that they say, but we don't listen to what was meant behind that. This is a huge problem, especially when influencers might say something that gets published. Someone might say something that makes no sense out of context, but when put back into a conversation, it falls perfectly together. Chapter 6. Practical Exercises to Develop Emotional Intelligence. Think of your emotional intelligence like a muscle. To strengthen that muscle and build it up to where you want it to be, you need to exercise it consistently, just as you would with physical exercise. Reflecting on your feelings. The first exercise that you can begin working to develop and improve your emotional intelligence is to begin by observing your feelings and reflecting on them. It is easy to fall out of touch with ourselves in this hectic world that we live in. From the moment we wake up each morning, our lives seem to be constantly on the go. Trying to manage one thing after another, taking care of ourselves, often falls by the wayside, and we lose that connection to our innermost feelings. Instead of learning to focus on our emotions when they arise, we choose to do the easier, more convenient thing. We either brush it aside, ignore them, or deny them completely. Maybe even distract us from those feelings by doing something else. The more you deny your feelings, though, the harder it becomes to manage them later on. Bottling up your emotions and hoping they will just go away on its own has never proven to be an effective strategy. If it were, there wouldn't be quite so many people walking around lashing out emotionally or reacting impulsively. And from now on, whenever you experience an emotion, no matter what it may be, observe it, acknowledge it, and reflect on how it is making you feel. AKA, note of your triggers. This is something new because you've probably never done this before. Take your exercises towards building emotional intelligence one step further by writing down the triggers that cause you to become emotional each time you observe your feeling. What caused you to get worked up? What caused you to feel stressed? What's responsible for creating this feeling of happiness you now feel? Whenever you make a note of every emotion you experience, write down and make a list of the things that triggered it. Examine that list a couple of times a week. Do you notice any patterns? What is a recurring theme that you can spot? Learning how to identify the triggers that cause extreme emotional reactions are the key to learning how to manage your emotion. After all, you can't manage something that you don't know. You need to know what you're dealing with before you can start making moves to remedy it. Keep track of the emotion triggers. Once you have found out the reasons behind the occurrence of every emotion, write down those reasons on your list. For instance, if there is a certain person or a certain event that invokes the emotion of anger in you, then you must write down this reason under the heading of anger, making use of those emotions. We must never underestimate that how emotions affect our thoughts. Whenever we think about a certain thing, our emotions control our reactions about that thing. Emotions don't just tend to occur on a sudden basis. They occur due to reasons that have been supporting them for a certain period. For instance, you are getting late in the morning while driving to work. You see a car with a flat tire standing in the midst of the road. You start angrily shouting at the driver of that car to move his car away from the road. This anger didn't just occur as a sudden reaction to the flat tire of that car, but it occurred because you woke up late that morning, due to which you were already late for your work. At the end comes the task of managing your emotions. For some people, this task is known to be the biggest challenge in their life. Managing your emotions is not just a one-day task, but it requires continuous struggle. However, once you master this task, managing your emotions might turn into the easiest thing on this planet. Hey, take a time out when you need it. An emotionally intelligent person does not let their feelings overwhelm them. They always remain cool, calm, and collected. They always respond appropriately. More importantly, they know when to take a time out and come back to the situation with a better solution. It is easy to let your feelings overwhelm you if you're not careful. As much as you want to resolve a conflict there and then, sometimes you need to take a time out or a 5-minute breather to just clear your head whenever your emotions are starting to get the best of you. That is the intelligent thing to do. Instead of plowing through your emotions, or forcing yourself to resolve a conflict, for example, observe the way you're feeling, and if you need a break, speak up, let the other person know. Walk away for a couple of minutes, and come back to it when your head is clearer and you're thinking straight. Start practicing responding. Where prior to this, you may have been more prone to reacting impulsively each time you had an extreme emotional reaction, now you need to adopt a new exercise. You need to learn how to respond first instead of reacting. You now need to make response your first default mode, and you do that with self-awareness and self-regulation. By paying attention to your emotions, especially the ones that tend to trigger an extreme reaction in the past, you can then learn how to regulate yourself. You can make a conscious effort to choose the next move you will make, instead of letting your emotions drive. You will do the intelligent thing by leading with your head, not your heart. This is why it is so important to emulate the steps above, especially learning how to identify your triggers. If you know something will trigger an extreme emotional response, take measures to that, put a stop to that through self-regulation. No room for superiority. An emotionally intelligent person is that way because of one thing: they are humble. It simply won't do to think that you may be better than everyone, or that someone is not on par with you, and that makes you more superior. You will never achieve a leadership position if you inflict an air of superiority, because no one will ever respect a leader who makes it difficult to be likable. When you choose not to be humble, You make it very difficult for yourself to achieve self-awareness because you will be blinded to your own faults. It's no problem for you to immediately point out the flaws in others, but you won't be able to see the things that you are doing wrong. See everyone as an equal, not a subordinate. No matter what background they come from, everyone deserves to be treated respectfully. Display emotional intelligence by always choosing to be humble, approachable, likable, and pleasant. Avoid overthinking. One of the reasons that we sometimes become more emotional than we should is because we tend to overthink a lot of things. A simple matter which could be resolved easily could potentially get blown out of proportion because someone was reacting to it in a highly emotional way. To start exercising better emotional intelligence on your part, what you could do is to stop overthinking situations and just see things for what they are. You do that by looking at the facts in front of you. If something is not a tangible fact, then don't think about it. Observe the situation in front of you and see things as they are. Don't embellish, don't assume, and don't add on facts of your own. This is how things get more complicated than they should, and emotions get fired up when there was no need to be. Writing down your feelings, take a paper and a pen, note down the emotions that you feel on a regular basis. Point out your physical reactions to each type of emotion under the heading of that emotion. For instance, you have written down the emotion of hurt, which you feel now and then. The next thing you need to do is to point out your bodily reactions that occur as a result of feeling hurt. Whether you cry or feel a sense of loss, just write it down on your list. Once you have completed the first emotion and its symptoms, move on towards the next emotion. Pour your heart out. Open the floodgates of emotion and just let it flow until you're done. When you've finished, read what you've just written down, assess your thoughts, observe the way that you're feeling, and reflect upon why and what triggered such an emotion within you. Once you've finished and felt better, you can always tear up or shred the paper. The point of this exercise is to provide you with an outlet for your emotions, to give you something that helps you regulate the way that you're feeling instead of just letting the emotion fester within you. Have you noticed how you sometimes feel better after talking about your feelings with someone? It works the same way, except that by writing it down, you ensure that you always have an outlet for your emotions, even when no one is available. Chapter 7. How to Improve Yourself. Increase your self-esteem. Affirm your positive trait. Just as we often think negative things about ourselves, we must learn to affirm positive traits as well. For example, maybe you're constantly telling yourself, "You're a lazy person." You've been telling yourself that for so long that you are believing it, and you've internalized that voice. To see yourself positively and improve your self-esteem, try telling yourself the opposite. Avoid comparisons. One of the toughest parts of developing your self-esteem is realizing that you cannot compare yourself to others. Too often, we compare ourselves with people around us like family, co-workers, friends, or people we don't even know thanks to the exposure to social media. Whether it's about looks, money, personal possessions, or whatever it may be, the trap of comparing is that you never feel good enough. So identify your unique gifts. Everyone has something that they excel at. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses. Instead of focusing on your weaknesses, focus on what your strengths are and what skills you possess that make you feel confident. Whether it's your skills at work, or your creative outlets, or skill on the guitar, or how well you cook, it's important that you are not ashamed of what you do well and channel that energy so you feel confident about yourself. Don't focus on your failures. Focus on your successes. Be proud of your accomplishments. Focus on self-care. Whether you are exercising, treating yourself to a spa day, or getting a good night's sleep, it's important that you take care of yourself physically to take care of your mental health. Exercise is proven to release serotonin, a neurotransmitter of the brain that creates feelings of happiness and contentment. Whether it's an hour at the gym or just going for an evening walk before dinner, take some time to exercise so you are physically taking care of yourself. Do something relaxing for yourself after a long week. Treat yourself to a cheat day if you've been sticking to your diet regularly. Whatever it is, you should focus on yourself and making your emotional and mental health a priority. Help others. Studies show that helping someone else or volunteering can help you feel better about yourself. It takes you out of your mindset and urges you to think about someone else. The best way to increase your feelings of self-worth is volunteering face-to-face, such as at a homeless shelter or a soup kitchen. But if you can also donate money or provide services online, then you can also increase your self-worth. You can feel like you are part of a cause and that you are helping people. You have a purpose. This gives value to you and your time, and you feel part of a greater community. This increases your self-worth and self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. Remind yourself that you are not your circumstances. Tell yourself over and over that even if you are going through a tough time right now, you may not be soon. Circumstances occur in our life that is sometimes out of our control. As the saying goes, this too shall pass. With hard work, compassion, and patience, whatever tough time you are going through will soon ease itself, your problems will be solved, and you will feel stronger for having gone through it. This is important to recognize your self-esteem and not let the circumstances around you beat you down. Oh, to use self-talk. The habit of positive or negative self-talk often begins early in our childhood and the people who are around us. The good news is that even if you have a negative self-talk habit, it's never too late to change your outlook. There are some steps to help you. So identify how you treat yourself. It may sound silly, but try and view how you talk about yourself and how many times you say negative things to yourself in the span of a day. Whether you need to write a journal or simply take some time to meditate, it can be astonishing sometimes to realize how often we speak to ourselves negatively. Use a thought-stopping method to stop yourself from saying something negative in your head. Place the negative statements in your self-talk with positive ones. When you are becoming aware of how you treat yourself and the world around you, you can begin to replace the negative statements with different neutral or positive words. This will help you feel more positive, or at least more neutral about the experiences you are going through. Change your definitive statements into questions. Definitive emotional statements are the ones we make every day and may not even realize it. For example, when we say things like, "This is impossible," or "I am never going to finish this," we are ingraining in ourselves a negative slant to these statements. It only increases our stress and stops you from searching for solutions to solve these problems. How to use visualizations and affirmations. Affirmations are statements with a positive tone that work to define your goal and desire and improve the way you view yourself. The technique of using affirmations is to repeat them over and over so they are embedded into your subconscious and you finally start to believe what you are saying. By believing them, you will follow through on them and accomplish whatever goal you have set for yourself, whether it's about your habits, your personal or professional behavior, or your personality. Creating an affirmation can help your mindset so you can conquer a goal. Think of it like this. Working out at the gym is for your physical body, and using affirmations is for your mind. You want to focus on the stage of your life you are in and what you are going through. You want to replace your "I can't" with "I can." You want to remind your unconscious mind about the positives in your life and feel appreciative about the situation you are in, even if it's a tough one. Instead of saying things like, "I am never going to lose this baby weight," or "I will never understand organic chemistry," create positive affirmations to replace the negative thoughts. Instead, replace those sayings with, "I am so thankful for a healthy baby and a smooth pregnancy and labor, and I'm so happy I got into one of the top universities in my state." Here are some simple steps to create the positive affirmation you may need to get you through the day. Number 1. Use the words "I am" in a present tense to emphasize to yourself that you will be doing something and you will implement this behavior and thought immediately into your life, not future tense, but today. 2. Be positive. Always use an affirmation to say what you want. Don't focus on things you don't want, but what you hope to gain. 3. Be brief and be specific. You want to be focused on what your goal is and exactly what step you need to achieve it. 4. Include an action word so your brain knows that there is some activity involved that you need to do to make this goal happen. 5. Make sure your affirmations are for yourself, not other people. This is something you will work towards for yourself and your betterment, not for anyone else. This ensures that you will feel more motivated about conquering the goal. Repeat your affirmations to yourself every day, preferably out loud and with energy and enthusiasm, whether it's taking a minute after you have gotten ready in the morning or saying it before bed at the end of a long day. You want to take some time to remind yourself about these statements? If you have a friend or family member that you are close with, you can have them be the ones to remind you about this affirmation throughout your journey to achieving this goal. Visualization is a technique where you clearly work to visualize the future reality you want to be living in. The clearer and the more detailed your vision is, the more impact it will have on your subconscious mind. It is a powerful tool that can motivate you for future success in your life. For example, athletes are always told to imagine their future success, that they've won the World Series or that they have won the Super Bowl in the upcoming season. It's not about confidence per se, but about visualizing your goal coming true and using that feeling to motivate you to make it happen. Chapter 8. Emotional Intelligence in Relationships. Remember, emotional intelligence will have an impact in all areas of your life. Learning how to deal with your emotions and those of others will help you live a purposeful life. You will always see the best out of every situation. When relating with other people, we always strive to present ourselves in a manner that guarantees we are accepted. Truly, whether at work or your personal life, we all yearn to feel welcomed and accepted. At times, the fear of rejection pushes us to engage in activities that we might not like. For instance, one could turn to drugs after a failed marriage. Also, it is common to see people getting depressed over their failed careers. Undeniably, relationships are there to be mended. People are not born with friends. Folks should interact and find ideal ways of mingling. Having said this, it is imperative that you understand how to relate with people, both at work and in your private life. The way you present yourself in front of other people will have an impact on the relationship you share with them. The following are recommended strategies which will help you in developing positive relations, either at work or in your personal life. The people who are not emotionally intelligent tend to make for terrible partners in a relationship. Granted, emotional intelligence is not the be-all and end of a relationship, but it is a pretty big deal. You really do not want to be intimately involved with a person who is not emotionally intelligent because they will always fall short of your expectations. At least where emotions are concerned, dating a person with a low can be really frustrating. It can stop you from enjoying all the comforts and benefits that come with a relationship. A partner with a low IQ can also do a lot of damage to your self-esteem. Unfortunately, many people do not know how to tell whether their partner or any other loved one has a low IQ. You may have heard your friend complain that her boyfriend is never attuned to her feelings, or that he always yells when they get into an argument. While you may have known that this is wrong, you probably did not understand the relationship between such behavior and low emotional intelligence. Signs you are dealing with a partner who ranks low on the emotional intelligence scale. He is not able to read your feelings. Imagine dating someone who is never able to tell how you are feeling. Sounds frustrating, right? While we're not mind readers, we are at least supposed to somewhat be able to read the emotions of our significant others. Being able to understand verbal and non-verbal cues shared by your partner is a sign of emotional intelligence. If you have to spell out each and every emotion that you are feeling to your partner, You are dating someone who needs a whole lot of practice on AK. Of course, your partner cannot be expected to sense your every emotion and anticipate your every need. That is a lot to ask from one person. However, they should at least be in tune with your reality. If you are crying in the darkness of your bedroom, it does not require a rocket scientist assessment to tell that you are sad. He has no network of friends and acquaintances. Emotionally intelligent people make friends easily because they know how to relate to people, how to make people feel listened to and understood, and how to maintain healthy relationships. If your partner just moved into town, it's okay for them to not have friends. However, if he has been living in the same neighborhood for 5 years, and he still does not anybody that likes him enough to stick around as a friend, then you might just have caught yourself a fish that is lacking in EK. He behaves inappropriate. The inability to read a room is a major giveaway that someone is not emotionally intelligent. The fact that a person can stand in a room full of people and keep telling jokes that make everyone uncomfortable shows that they are incapable of reading non-verbal cues and cannot pick up on the emotions or mood of the people in the room. It can be quite embarrassing to be on the other side of such a relationship. A is often the loudest person in the room. Oh, there's nothing wrong with being extroverted. In fact, it is a good thing that extroverts exist because they fill the awkward silences that introverts leave in their wake. However, if the person you are dating is loud in a manner that is obnoxious, then you likely have a person that is emotionally immature on your hands, dealing with a partner who has low emotional intelligence. Watch your tone. Some people score poorly in EK, not because they want to, but because they do not know better. So your role as an emotionally intelligent partner or spouse is to bring your partner to the other side, the side where people speak respectfully and with empathy, the side where people are good listeners who do not interrupt others while they are talking. Being condescending about your superior emotional intelligence will only make your partner resentful of you. Be realistic about your expectation. You've been suspecting that your partner has low A key all along, and this book has cemented this suspicion by providing you with solid evidence of what X is not, it is not. Should you share this book with your partner and demand that they read it from cover to cover and report back to you in a week's time, complete with a higher AQ? Your partner might not even be up for it. They might fight you when you suggest that they should try doing this or that. Remember that low IEQ people tend to hate change. Converting your partner will not be a walk in the park. However, if your partner truly loves you and is committed to your relationship, then you can help them get started on the baby steps that they need to take for the relationship to become even more fulfilling than it really is. Remember, it's okay to fight. Every relationship has its own fights. There can never be a relationship without fights unless the parties are afraid to share their true opinion. Fights strengthen relationships. They give a platform for partners to share the feelings that they have kept hidden deep within. Whether you are fighting about EQ-related matters or any other thing, do not feel any guilt or shame over it. Even the most emotionally intelligent people fight with their loved ones. They just know better than to yell or name, call or hit. As long as you are fighting without tearing each other down, you are on the right track. Let the other person choose to change. It's true that you can influence another person into changing by modeling the kind of behavior that is appropriate. However, you can never force a person that does not want to change to change. Change is such a personal decision that must be made by an individual when they are ready for it. If your spouse behaves in a particular manner that you find to be emotionally immature, they have to get to a place where they see it from your perspective and then decide to change. This might take a whole lot of time and may even seem impossible at first. Sitting around waiting for them to be ready might take up all your patience. Only you will be in a position to decide whether they are worth the wait or not. Sometimes you'll have to walk away. At some point, you have to pull the plug on a relationship that is not working. Relationships are not recyclable plastics that you can keep and use for another purpose when you are done using them for what they were originally intended. A relationship is supposed to be a positive addition in your life. If your partner is exhibiting signs of low or non-existent emotional intelligence, including being emotionally abusive, it is well within your right to walk away. In fact, you should not only walk, but run as fast as your high IQ. Somewhere out there is someone who is self-aware and motivated that is bound to appreciate a respectful relationship with an emotionally mature adult such as yourself. Strategies to improve and rescue relationships in both your work and personal life. Acknowledge and celebrate differences. Nonetheless, it is essential that you steer away from such ideologies. Yes, you might be different, but get it clear that the world would have been a boring place if we were the same. As such, accept differences and learn to celebrate them. Listen effectively. There is power in listening to what other people have to say. Psychologists argue that listening is a silent type of flattery. By actively listening, you give people the impression that they are valued. You are giving them time to express themselves without interfering. With regards to creating meaningful relationships, listening stands as a fundamental thing that you ought to do. You must realize that you shouldn't just listen, but you should actively listen to what folks have to say. There is a difference here. Actively listening implies that you listen while also showing concern. Remember, it is important to express your understanding to what the other party is feeling or desiring. After knowing what they really want, you can move on to respond. Give people time. It is impossible to create meaningful connections with people without giving them your time. Giving people time is a special gift. Usually, we often claim that we don't have time. Therefore, by offering to spend time with friends, family, and your colleagues, it means a lot. There is a lot that you will be sacrificing when you spend your precious time with individuals you care about. In the end, you find yourself developing strong bonds with those you interact with. Unfortunately, the advent of technology has made it impossible to create worthwhile relationships. Today, most people will plan for a gathering where they get to spend most of the time on their phone. This means that their presence is not felt. Technological devices have robbed people of the value that they would have generated when others create time for them. Consequently, part of ensuring that you give people the time they need, you also need to make yourself present, mentally and physically. Improve your communication skills. Communication is yet another key factor which will confirm that you create purposeful relations with people. A huge challenge experienced by most people in communication is that they make assumptions. Often, some folks tend to think that others have understood them. Making assumptions leads to misunderstandings, and this negatively affects how people relate. At work, failing to communicate effectively could lead to backstabbing and blaming each other. Good communication at work will have a positive impact on the overall morale of workers. In this case, when a leader conveys information clearly, junior workers will find it easy to follow instructions. Synergy will also be felt if all people are working in groups. Poor communication will also affect love affairs. Without understanding what your partner needs, there is a likelihood that things will fall apart. Successful relationships dwell on communication. Partners who always listen to each other will find ways of solving their issues amicably. Engage mobile technology. The importance of managing how you use your devices is worth repeating over and over again. Most relationships have suffered because people don't know how to use their devices. In social gatherings, it is not surprising to find people glued to their mobile phones. Undeniably, this is not the best way of interacting with people. Sure, the use of mobile technology has transformed the way we communicate. However, the bitter truth is that it is negatively affecting our relationships. Consequently, something must be done. Change begins with you. Learn how to use your mobile handset wisely. Feedback communication will not be complete without providing feedback to those you are relating with. To create beneficial relationships, it is vital that you provide others with constructive feedback. Don't just respond without stopping for a moment to think. You want to evaluate whether what you are about to say is pertinent, about to say is important. Other people will value positive feedback from your end. This is an essential ingredient to building a strong connection with those around you. There is always something to gain in the relationships we enter into. Having a positive outlook to any engagement you enter into will have a lasting impact. The best part is that you will live a happier life surrounded by people you love. Chapter 9. Tips for boosting self-awareness. Examine the origin of specific feelings. For instance, if you feel sense of dislike for a person, where are the feelings originating from? And is it related to your experiences with other similar people? Is it jealousy? Is it something the person did or said to you? Track the origin of your feelings to understand why you feel the way you do. Are you feeling demoralized and disappointed because of something your boss said to you this morning? Are you angry, upset, and hurt because of an early morning fight with your partner? Are there specific psychological symptoms because of these emotions? Do your emotions affect your body language, gestures, expressions, voice tone, speech, choice of words, and more? Are you emotionally transparent? Is it easy for people to know how you are feeling simply by observing you? Do you make impulsive, emotionally driven decisions? To be more self-aware and emotionally intelligent, reconnect with your basic emotions, identify them, accept them, and utilize them for making more balanced and positive decisions. Self-expert. What is the initial step if you want to bring a major transformation in your thoughts, actions, feelings, and behavior? It is awareness that these thoughts exist and lead you into a specific action. If you have to change something, you must know what needs to be worked upon. This will only come by knowing yourself in and out. Sports people are trained to recognize and overcome their emotions before a crucial game. It is as much a part of their training as physical skills. This mindset and emotion-based training are imparted under the premise that if an individual can identify and manage their emotions, it is easier to keep their productivity unaffected. Think about all the recent scenarios where your emotions got the better of you and affected your productivity. Don't we let even small matters at work affect our performance? When you know your strengths and limitations, you are more likely to meet your objectives confidently. The chances of frustration, despair, disappointment, and low performance are much lower. Confidence and assertiveness come naturally when we are more aware of our emotions, thoughts, actions, and behavior. If we let emotions rule us mindlessly without being aware of them, we lose grip of our actions, thus leading to loss of confidence and productivity. When we increase awareness of our emotions, they barely rule us, and we can manage them more efficiently. An emotionally aware person doesn't become a passive victim of their emotions. He or she uses knowledge about their emotions in a constructive and positive manner to achieve desired results. Make a list of all your strengths and limitations. I'd also recommend taking psychological personality evaluations and assessments to identify your abilities, strengths, weaknesses, personality, skills, and values. Don't hesitate to solicit objective feedback from people you trust. This will help you understand things from a different perspective that you may not have considered objectively before. Journaling is another wonderful way to take stock of your feelings or boost self-awareness. Write a few pages just before going to bed or on awakening each morning in a stream of consciousness. While we are asleep, our subconscious mind is most active, which allows us to tap into our innermost feelings and emotions that even we aren't aware of, since they are outside the realm of our conscious mind. Keep a journal next to bed to note dreams, recurring thought patterns, imagery, and other similar things that allow you to access your deepest feelings and intuition. The key is to note your dreams as soon as you wake up, before your conscious mind takes over. If you leave it for later, you may forget everything. Write about your thoughts, feelings, and emotions as they occur. What are the emotions you are currently experiencing? What are the physiological responses? Increased heartbeat, faster pulse rate, sweating. To you, your emotions? The thing about emotions and feelings they can be highly complex. A majority of our emotions are multi-layered. For instance, if you have a heated discussion with your friend, you may feel hurt, vengeful, angry, guilty, and more all at once. Mention emotions precisely as they occur to you. Be honest while journaling your emotions. If you feel jealous about someone, mention it. If you are possessive or insecure about your partner, be honest and note it. Being emotionally honest and open is the key to being more self-aware. If you keep denying these emotions exist, you won't know how to use this information for optimal benefit. Even if you feel confounded by two opposite emotions, mention them exactly as they occur. For example, you've just found out that you have your dream job aboard. However, this means leaving your home and living without your partner for a few years. In effect, you are experiencing mixed emotions. You are delighted with the job offer. However, you are also sad about leaving behind your loved one. Thus, by mentioning your mixed feelings, you are acknowledging them and gaining a greater awareness of them. Make a list of each role you fulfill in your everyday life. For example, you may be a parent, teacher, manager, sibling, employee, spouse, and more. What emotions do you strongly feel associated with each role? If you had to describe your experience in each role with a single word, how would you describe it? Please say you may feel fulfilled in your role as a parent, but be an unhappy spouse or demotivated worker. Carefully examine each role and the feelings or emotions closely attached to them. Labeling emotions connected with each important role or relationship in our life helps us regulate these feelings more effectively. You are likelier to stay in control of your emotional responses with respect to the role. Identify and label emotions. Learn the art of not just identifying, but categorizing and labeling your emotions. This isn't treating your feelings like a library full of books. It is simply taking stock of how you feel to increase self-awareness, and in turn, you respond to this emotional information. Labeling or naming your feelings makes it simpler to identify them and work on them. Each time you feel overcome by strong emotions, quickly recognize it and identify it. Make this a conscious habit from now on. Is the feeling you are experiencing rage, insecurity, possessiveness, annoyance, depression, elation, amazement, despair, joy, or even a combination of some of these feelings? You can get creative and give your own names to your emotions to make the process more personal and interesting. What induces certain feelings and emotions in you? What are the triggers that lead you to feel happy, sad, angry, upset, disappointed, and more? What is the primary source of positive and damaging emotions for you? Is it naming your emotions and identifying the trigger for these emotions that boost your emotional awareness? Once you identify your feelings, rooted in illogical or unfounded jealousy, insecurity, and fear, you will deal with it in a more rational, mature, and understanding manner. You'll be more willing to think that this isn't really the other person's fault, that they are more loved than you are, which will change your equation with him or her. You'll realize that your sibling has certain qualities that make them likable and admirable, which you can emulate. Resist the urge to fix emotion. One of the most important things to understand about being more self-aware or identifying your feelings is that you don't always have to fix them. That isn't the intention of recognizing your feelings. Ideally, we should simply identify these emotions and let them pass rather than trying to let them control you. Unfortunately, we have been conditioned to categorize our emotions as good and bad. At times, we feel guilty about experiencing certain emotions or believe feeling certain emotions make us an evil person. Emotions are never good or bad. They are emotions. Avoid the urge to push seemingly bad emotions from your consciousness. Simply acknowledge that you are undergoing certain emotional experiences by telling yourself, I think I am feeling pangs of jealousy, or I am feeling annoyed and irritated by what this person is saying right now. One of the best things to do when you want to allow unpleasant emotions to pass without being too affected by it is to practice deep breathing. Trying to push out the emotion will only make it bounce back with double the intensity. Instead, acknowledge it, allow it to live its term without being affected before it fades away. Our body takes about 6 seconds to take in emotion-driven chemicals. Give your body sufficient time to absorb the chemicals before going about your regular task. Recognize recurring emotional patterns. This is one of the best parts of gaining greater self-awareness. The human brain is known for its tendency to follow already established neural pathways, then create new ones. The already set neural pathways may not always meet constructive or positive purpose. But the good news, you can change neural pathways that don't make positive contributions. Identify emotions based on physiological reactions. Our emotions affect us not just psychologically, but also on a physiological level. So, for instance, you may feel an overpowering anxiety just before a presentation or important meeting. What are the physiological signs of this anxiety or nervousness? There is an uncomfortable feeling in the stomach. The throat may become dry. You start sweating, and your hands and legs start shaking and so on. Stay receptive to constructive feedback and criticism. One of the smartest ways to develop higher awareness of your emotions is to be more receptive to feedback, suggestions, and criticism from others. This helps emotionally intelligent people identify and work on their weak spots. You can identify your triggers, actions, thoughts, and behavior more effectively. Use your emotional data effectively. Treat your emotions as vital data pieces that can help you view things from a more objective perspective. Avoid suppressing, combating, ignoring, fighting, or being overpowered by your emotions. Treat it as an invaluable resource of information that can help you lead a more intentional, positive, and rewarding life. Practice mindfulness and deep breathing. Our emotions are physiologically experienced when we experience anger, distress, disappointment, and other emotions. They are visible through the body's physical reactions. Our body reacts involuntarily to the emotions at an evolutionary level. How will your body react if you suddenly spot a wild beast in your path? Some of the most common reactions will be a faster heartbeat, faster pulse, sweating, shaking limbs, shallower breathing, and so on. Tune into your inner self and pay close attention to your feelings. How does it feel when oxygen enters your throat, lungs, chest, diaphragm, and stomach? The idea is to focus on your feelings, mindfully, without judging. Stay in the present moment while acknowledging your feelings without judging them. Concentrate on the flow of air that enter and leave your abdomen. Even a few deep breaths are enough to get you into a more positive mindset. Chapter 10. Understanding Emotional Drain and Energy Vampires. The nature of emotional intelligence, especially the empathy component, is such that you will be giving a whole lot of you to others. You will be investing your emotions in an effort to gain an understanding of other people's feelings. You will also be investing your time in trying to appreciate other people's thoughts. What happens when you start to feel drained? What causes you to start feeling drained in the first place? Have you ever spent some time with someone only to leave their company feeling extremely drained? Or maybe you have dated a partner who seemed to enjoy leaving you depleted of all your emotional resources. It might also be that you work with colleagues that leave you feeling worse for wear at the end of every workday. Emotional drain manifests itself in various ways. It is the effect of being under too much stress, both mentally and emotionally. Emotional drain might look like boredom, irritation, sadness, and even anxiety. Whatever it may look like, emotional drain is a very serious problem. Going through long periods of emotional drain sometimes has tragic consequences in the end. What exactly causes emotional drain? The shortest answer is this: energy vampires. Energy vampires, also known as emotional vampires, are individuals who sap the energy out of other people. The main motivator for energy vampires is their own emotional immaturity. Unfortunately for you, a lot of people tend to be emotionally immature. This means you are at a very high risk of encountering an energy vampire. How does being emotionally immature make one an energy vampire? When a person is emotionally mature, they know how to handle their emotions, because they are well equipped to deal with them. Emotionally immature people are not similarly equipped, and thus they deal with their emotions by bringing other people into their drama. Often, the inability to handle emotions goes back to some trauma experienced in childhood. For instance, children who are neglected in their childhood often grow up to be adults who have a myriad of issues, including low self-esteem, anger problems, and even an inability to define their true identity. When this is the case, the adult might lash out from the pain they have carried all their life. They might now even know they are doing this because they experienced pain. Sometimes, the trauma lingers in the body long after the years have passed. The brain recognizes this pain and may not pinpoint the exact time that it happened. The brain just knows that the body is experiencing this pain. The therapy is often the bridge between the brain and the body as far as understanding this trauma and where it comes from. As such, it might not be someone's intention to be an energy vampire, but they'll be one all the same because of what they have gone through. At the same time, there are individuals who sap the energy out of you knowingly and intentionally. Such individuals include psychopaths, who are known to lack empathy, and narcissists. Any times when a person is dealing with an emotional vampire, it can be hard to admit what is happening. As human beings, there is some guilt and shame that comes with admitting that a particular person drains every last ounce of energy from you. You might feel as if saying that makes you a bad person. When the individual in question is a relative or loved one, you might become very conflicted between what you know and how you feel. It is therefore important to know the very clear signs of the emotional drain so that you can move on to the next step of deciding how to deal with an emotional vampire. Signs of emotional drain. Besides feeling exhausted after an interaction with someone, there are numerous other signs that can point to a problem. Unfortunately, many of these signs can be attributed to other things, which explains why they might go unnoticed for a long time. For instance, if you are having trouble sleeping, you might think it is because you are stressed about tomorrow's presentation. The real cause might be the fact that you are in an emotionally draining relationship with an energy vampire, which brings us to the first sign of emotional drain, which is insomnia. Insomnia, you'd think that the brain would know to fall asleep when you are emotionally depleted to allow you the chance for some required rest, but this is not the case. The emotional drain is often accompanied by stress, which is characterized by a racing mind that is trying to contain 1,000,001 thoughts. When your mind is in this state, it can be very difficult to quiet down for a night of relaxing sleep. If you are having trouble sleeping and have not undergone a major life event that would explain your insomnia, you might want to look around at the people you spend your time with. One of them might be sapping all the joy and life from you, leaving you with nothing to look forward to at the end of the night. Lack of motivation when you are down in the dumps. You lack the necessary emotional resources to motivate yourself. The things you used to love are no longer appealing, and you have to give yourself a pep talk before getting out of bed in the morning. Energy vampires have a way of stealing all the resources from you. An energy vampire might come in the form of a boss who is always criticizing your work unfairly, even when you have delivered pure gold. You will likely not have the mental or emotional energy to get into it with such a boss, or even the job itself, after several months of constant criticism. While you had previously enjoyed your job, you will likely catch yourself not wanting to show up at the office. Hopelessness. Hope is a thing that has been channeled by many a person to get themselves through difficult situations in life. When a person is without hope, they see no end to their suffering. They believe that what they are going through is permanent, and that every day they live through will be worse than the previous. Energy vampires who are intentional in their emotional abuse are especially good at sucking out all the hope from your life. A narcissist, for instance, might make you feel as if you are the most worthless person in the world and that you'll never be able to achieve anything. When you get such a review from a person that you love, it is easy to lose any hope that you had for the future. It is critical that you never allow any person to take your hope away from you. Hope is what you'd be left with if all your material and earthly possessions were to be taken away. Hope is what drives you to rebuild when the rug is pulled out from under your feet. Protect your hope at all costs. Do not allow anybody to get anywhere near your hope. Detachment, when you have been emotionally abused and kicked around for a long time, you become numb as a defense mechanism. You no longer experience emotions like other people. Instead, you are immune to emotions of joy and happiness. You are used to pain, and so you prefer to prepare your brain and body for it. You might not even be conscious of this process. You may just find yourself one day wondering when was the last time that you had a good laugh. Constant crying whenever you are experiencing strong emotions. Your limbic system communicates the same to the autonomic nervous system, which in turn activates your tear glands, resulting in a good cry. This is why some people might cry during happy moments. Their limbic system simply sensed the rush of emotion and sent that all-important message to the nervous system. Irritability, when you are emotionally drained, all your emotional and mental reserves are depleted to the extent where you no longer have any patience for anybody. You may find yourself being intolerant of the smallest things. Someone could be chewing loudly next to you, and you'll be fighting back the urge to punch them in the face. There is a clear correlation between stress and anger, and it is one that you can easily notice even without the help of a psychologist. Think about it. When you do find yourself snapping most at the people around you, maybe your partner or even children, chances are high that you are less fun to be around when you are stressed about things. How to deal with energy vampires. You can also be an energy vampire depending on the circumstances in your life. For instance, there are times in your life when you might be extremely needy and codependent, depending on what you are going through. If you have ever needed someone to fill an empty space or need in your life, you probably were an energy vampire at that moment. Seeing that we all have the capacity to be energy vampires, is there any need to learn how to deal with it? Would it not be easier to just let ourselves exist in our natural states as well, meaning but somewhat needy people who sometimes suck the soul out of others without intending to? Well, unfortunately, there are those vampires that will leave a trail of emotionally drained people in their wake without feeling any bit of remorse about it. An energy vampire of that kind can do a whole lot of destruction, which is why you must know how to deal with the intentional and calculating emotional vampire. The very first thing that you need to do when dealing with an energy vampire is to recognize them for who they are. A lot of times we're involved with the wrong people for a long period before realizing what exactly they are and the damage they cause in our lives. If the feeling you get after spending time with someone is constantly negative, consider this a red flag that you want. As human beings, we tend to extend a whole lot of grace and forgiveness to people who do not deserve any of those things. We say perhaps they were having a bad day, or perhaps they are dealing with tough things in their life. We make excuses for people when deep down we know that they are bad for us and that they are indeed not having a bad day. If someone constantly behaves like a jerk, they are probably a jerk. Do not allow such a person to keep getting away with it just because you feel gracious toward them. Crucial thing that you will need to learn when dealing with energy vampires is how to ground yourself. Grounding yourself involves knowing who you are, understanding yourself, and remaining true to who you are so that you are not easily swayed by people who come in and out of your life. It is vital that you have a clear and solid understanding of your individuality and your energy. Energy vampires have a way of identifying vulnerable people that they can take advantage of. Vulnerable people include those who are easily influenced. For example, if you are easily rattled by what people think and say about you, you will become the perfect fodder for emotional vampires. Think of yourself as a sturdy oak with your soul's roots stretching deep into the earth. Come storm or sunshine, this oak perseveres. Be the oak. Let the energy vampires tire themselves out while they try to figure out how to uproot you. Remember to always protect your personal space at all times. Personal space acts as a barrier between us and the world around us. Protecting your personal space means being careful with who you allow into your life. If you make it easy for an energy vampire to intrude into your personal space, you will be setting yourself up for a whole lot of heartache and emotional drain. Or while it is a nice thing to be friendly to the people you come across, it is not your obligation to be friends with everyone. You must properly vet the inner circle that comes close to your personal space. Imagine sitting across an energy vampire for an hour while they suck your very soul out of you. Draining, right? However, if you sit across this same vampire while you are in a group of people, their negative energy is spread across the 3 or 4 of you. If you absolutely must deal with an energy vampire, consider doing so while in a group setting so that you can protect some of your energy. If your boss is an energy vampire, for instance, do not allow yourself to be lured into one working lunch. Instead, opt for group lunches where the entire team gets to tag along. Of course, sometimes this may be out of your control, considering the fact that your boss might prefer to impose his opinion on you without asking for yours in return. That being said, you can always get creative and ensure that you do not allow yourself to get into conversations that leave you feeling physically drained and mentally exhausted. Everyone has topics that they feel strongly about. Avoid the energy vampire's trigger topics if you want to spare yourself the negativity. But for instance, you may have a friend that loves to be negative about work. They cannot stop talking about how much they hate their work and how much their boss hates them. Every time you have a discussion about work with your said friend, it leaves you feeling worse for the wear. Once you realize that work is the triggering topic for this friend, lay off conversations regarding work indefinitely. Go for topics that they are less likely to start complaining about. You can direct the conversations in your life in the way that you like so that you are not drained by your conversation partner. Lastly, remember that you do not have to deal with an energy vampire. It is absolutely within your rights and freedom as a human being to refuse to deal with someone who is bad for you. Do not ever feel as though it is your job to be patient with someone or to fix someone who is broken. You are trying to live your best life, and you cannot spread yourself thin trying to save everyone else. However compassionate you may be, you must recognize that some of the deep-set issues that people have can only be addressed with the help of a professional. It is fine to walk away from someone who ruins your mojo. It is fine to tell a person you have just started dating that you do not see the 2 of you working out. It is okay to choose self-preservation. You can never be everybody's savior. Types of energy vampire. The forever victim. Some people just love being the victim in every story. They play the role perfectly and use every opportunity to let the world know how unfair life is to them. If you have such a person in your life, you will quickly get tired of hearing them whine about everything and anything. They whine when the boss requires that they do the job they were hired to do. They complain when they face a minor inconvenience. They complain when you do not pick their calls because you were at a meeting, and they'll even complain after you pick up their call because they think your tone is harsh or unfriendly, or whatever they want it to be for that occasion. If you think reading about the things a person with a victim mentality will complain about makes you feel exhausted, imagine what the actual complaining does to a person who has to deal with such an energy vampire. It can be truly energy depleting. Long after you have left the company of such an energy vampire, you will still hear their whiny little voice ringing in your ears. The narcissist imagine living your life with someone who absolutely does not consider you a person worthy of empathy or any other sort of consideration. This is what a narcissistic energy vampire is all about. To them, the world revolves around them. If they sneeze, you must run immediately to them and see if they are about to catch a cold. God forbid that is the case, because now you have to shelve your life and ensure they recover by administering tender, loving care that they themselves would not be willing to spare if the roles were reversed. A narcissist vampire will make you feel as if you were born to do their bidding. They will steal all your sense of empowerment and leave you feeling deflated and worse for wear. Even when they sense you are getting overwhelmed, such vampires never quit. They take and take and take until there is nothing left of you to take. To the intimidator, it is a matter of fact that weakness is louder than strength. The intimidator is an energy vampire that is lacking in strength. As such, they compensate by trying to act tough and strong when in fact they are quivering in their boots beneath the surface. The intimidator is an emotional vampire that likes to dominate each and every space they are in, regardless of the circumstances or the occasion.
They talk the loudest in the room,
Are often inappropriate, like to push people around, and will have no hesitation spewing hate when they know they can hide being something. You will often find a lot of intimidators hiding behind computer screens and spewing their hate and bigotry about everything and anything. Intimidators often find strength in numbers of their own kind because they know they lack the innate strength to act alone. Intimidators do not care for other people's points of view. Only their opinions matter. An energy vampire of the sort makes for a very bad boss because they get drunk on power and believe they are more powerful and crucial to the organization than they truly are. The drama-loving energy vampire. Some people tend to drag drama everywhere they go. They carry it with them to personal relationships, to workplaces, to restaurants, to schools, and to just about anywhere they go, as long as there is an audience. The melodramatic energy vampire thrives in chaos because it fills the empty space in their life. Chaos also enables them to get the attention that they so love. If you can spot the drama signs from a mile off, run for your life. Do not take their bait. It never works out well. The judgy vampire. Have you ever spent time with someone who was highly critical of almost everyone they came across? Judgmental people are all around us, and they are impossible to please. They like to pick people apart and put them back together in a manner that will never allow them to be whole again. They are always armed with snide remarks that they throw around. Nobody is good enough for them. The reason they look at the world this way is that they do not like themselves. They are often highly insecure and believe they are not good enough. As such, they project this low self-worth to other people. If you are already struggling with your self-esteem, a judgmental vampire will take what's left and crush it to smithereens. Judgmental people can learn to be better human beings and less energy, sapping by getting the professional help that they obviously need. Before then, they remain as the energy vampires that they are. There are no prizes for guessing how unpopular these vampires are. The unknowing vampire. Sometimes, vampires are not even aware of the fact that they are vampires. Vampires are not always the characters described above who are easy to pick out in a crowd. Vampires can exist in the form of human beings who have grown to depend on you too much. Children, for instance, can be energy-sapping. Mothers all over the world can attest to this. Even the nicest people in the world can steal your energy if they become highly reliant on you. The unknowing or innocent vampire can be dangerous in that you might not even know they are one until you are completely drained of your emotional resources. Take a look around your life and think about the people you pour yourself into on a daily basis, either from a sense of duty or because you love them. How does this constant pouring affect you as a person? Do you go to bed feeling utterly exhausted because you had to cater to these people all day since waking up? If yes, then you need to devise a means of encouraging the unknowing vampires in your life to be more self-sufficient. Once they carry some of their weight, then you will be able to recharge and save some energy for yourself. What to do when you are the vampire? Maybe you have realized that you have been an energy vampire for as long as you can remember. Now you are probably feeling guilty about all the energy you sapped out of people when you did not mean to. Or maybe you are still in denial about it and feel like it's more of leaning on people and ranting than stealing their energy. As you work through your self-awareness, you will start to notice things that you were previously ignorant about. You will see patterns of behavior that are self-serving and destructive to others. You will acknowledge instances when you have acted unfairly toward others. You will identify opportunities that you had to be better and unfortunately lost. It will be quite the eye-opener for you. Whatever it is that you unearth, you must acknowledge this without being too hard on yourself. We are prone to error from time to time by virtue of being perfectly imperfect and flawed human beings. When you are unaware of something, then you are bound to mess up and act selfishly and hurt others along the way. Forgive yourself and hold yourself accountable for your future actions, seeing that ignorance will no longer be the reason for your behavior. At the same time, realize that other human beings do not exist to be taken advantage of or to serve you. Other people are going through things that they need help with. Stop to help them more often than you stop to use them. Imagine how incredible the world around us would be if we stopped to help more often than we stop to complain or lament. Everyone would be filling up everyone else's energy reservoirs. Make a habit of pouring yourself into the people you love more than you take out from them. Be kind to your spouse. Instead of complaining about things that happened at work during lunch break, consider having a nice dinner date to make up for it. Only you can determine the kind of energy that you will have in your life. Chapter 11. Emotional Intelligence at the Workplace. Workplace intelligence. Even today, most companies focus more on hard skills, education, experience, domain knowledge, and technical hands-on and personality trait assessments when it comes to their selection process. Empathy, stress management, social acumen, assertiveness, and political acumen are some of the competencies that are essential for a workplace scenario. Unfortunately, these are not focused on in training development programs or measured when it comes to the candidate selection process. But these are the crucial factors for success that shouldn't be ignored, as they can have a direct impact on the employee's outcome. Self-regulation helps you to manage your impulses, resource abilities, and the internal state of mind. This can prove worthy at your workplace, as you manage your disturbing emotions and impulses, giving you more power over your self-control, and maintain excellent standards of integrity and honesty, enabling people to trust you and your work. Be accountable for your performance, and take responsibility for your actions, as your conscientiousness is perfectly in line. Stay comfortable and open to new ideas, information, and approaches, which most likely lead to innovation in the workplace. Motivation and self-expectations are the driving forces that guide you to reach your goals. It facilitates and gives you the drive to achieve as you strive harder to meet the standard of excellence that is imposed upon you. Now to align yourself with the goals of the organization and commit towards the team's success. Now to take the initiative and additional responsibilities within the scope of opportunities without being told. To be optimistic about pursuing your goals despite the hindrance and difficulties you come across. Managing workplace conflict with emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and empathizing can solve most issues in a workplace environment, but it requires constant practicing. Polishing your emotional intelligence skills will make you less interesting to those toxic people. You aren't their target anymore. Like bullying, you will no longer give them the desired result they are looking for. Make your current boss your tool to develop the skills that will make you less attractive and interesting to his toxic personality. There are several different strategies to deal with unreasonable bosses, irritating co-workers, etc. But we will look at the emotional parts of it to help find the best way to deal with the particular scenario or person. Don't rise to the provocation. When the person is pushing your buttons, it is natural to burst out and react. It is impossible to fake the emotion that comes out. You will need to practice de-triggering yourself. This will help you take control of your emotions when the toxic person is trying to provoke you. When you are successful in dealing with the negativity of the person by de-triggering yourself, you feel empowered that you can move past a toxic relationship. Sometimes your team members who also suffer the brunt of toxicity can see you overcoming it and will feel the confidence to follow your example. It doesn't happen in an instant. You have to religiously practice de-triggering for some time, but once you get the hang of it, it comes to you naturally. Support and encourage. Support and encourage the others who are also a victim of such toxicity because, after a point, toxicity begins to feel normal. This can be dangerous. Talk to them passionately and remind them it is not normal. Ask them to look at it as an opportunity to grow their emotional ability. Encourage them to practice de-triggering Offer them opportunities to vent, but motivate them to turn that energy to balance the emotional intelligence factor. Show empathy. Empathize with your toxic boss. Think of your boss as someone who is hurt and feel sorry for him as he is harming his career path. When you do this, you begin to realize that the toxicity they are imposing on others is slowly eating them up. The moment you feel empowered, you see yourself as the one who can help them. But don't overburden yourself in an attempt to fix them, because it is not in your hands. They will need to it themselves. Don't volunteer to go and talk to him. Carry the perception in your heart and wait for the opportunity to come to you. Grab it the moment you see it and share your perspective politely. They will soon begin to self-analyze. Don't be judgmental. Before you criticize someone or judge their emotional intelligence, look in the mirror. Remember, when you judge someone, you are judging your conscience. When you throw criticism or judge a person, ask yourself, should I be doing this? Is it the real me? What does it say about my conscience? If someone's E-key is triggering some part of you, before you react, think about why it's happening. Self-reflection exercises can help you comprehend your E-key. It will enlighten you on the areas you need to improve when it comes to your relationship with your colleague or boss. When you are dealing with people with a low I-key, you are testing your emotional intelligence. Ultimately, it is a two-way process. Be an example. Are you confident in your emotional intelligence? Do you believe it is an ongoing effort? If yes, you will have to look at every single interaction as an opportunity for yourself to model good emotional intelligence. We are humans, and mistakes are part of our life. Instead of criticizing or judging another person with low EQ, try to lead by example. Everyone reacts emotionally to certain situations at some point or the other. Self-reflection is the key factor for you to remember when you interact with a low IQ person. Put your EQ skills to work. Don't react when a coworker frustrates you. Rather, give yourself time to think about it. Work on your thought process. What will happen if you react in a particular way? What will the consequences be? Will it affect the ambience of the team? Will it strain your relationship with the person further? Think about the counter-arguments you will have to face when you react that way. When you self-reflect, your communication will be much clearer, and you respond as effectively as you take into account the wants, feelings, opinions, and thoughts of the opposite person. Don't assume. Ask. Some people might have a problem in communicating their concerns or problems effectively, and this may be because of their low EQ. They don't realize that their stress and emotional reactions are responsible for triggering the opposite person. First and foremost, don't assume why the person acts in a particular way. Open the communication lines to diffuse the negative interactions you have with your boss or peers. Ask questions. Listen before you react. When you ask, you open a new framework of thought process. The boss or your colleague will understand that you are looking for a win-win situation that is beneficial for both. Be constructive in your feedback. When you open the communication line, you need to remember that you are walking down a two-way street. The best way to promote self-awareness and work on a relationship is by providing constructive feedback on others' behaviors. Constructive is just a word from the dictionary. If you have decided to share your observations about the person's behavior to them, ensure you do it in a polite, balanced, and respectful manner. It can be anyone, your boss, peer, or subordinate. You will need to be at your best version every time, be it giving or receiving feedback. Be calm, listen in, give yourself time to take in what is being said, understand the message, take notes, and be open about how you feel. Communication matters a lot. If the opposite person displays poor or vicious behavior, walk away calmly, emotionally distance yourself. If your attempts fail despite communicating or leading by example, the best way to deal with the person is by distancing yourself emotionally. As self-preservation is important, yes, maintain your emotional distance from the person If it is someone whom you cannot avoid in the workplace, avoid taking things personally, as the accusations or outbursts are just a reflection of who they are. You need to distance yourself from them emotionally. This is crucial. You shouldn't let your dysfunctional boss affect your self-worth. Remember, you are worthy enough for yourself. There is no need to explicitly prove that to anyone, especially to someone who cannot recognize his or her emotional patterns. How emotional intelligence can change your professional life forever. Emotionally intelligent people can retain their balance and composure in the toughest situations, which makes them an asset for any organization. They maintain their cool, even under stressful and high-pressure situations. People with high emotional intelligence are great at resolving conflicts, playing negotiators, and finding solutions. Emotionally intelligent leaders can lead their teams with greater empathy and understanding. They understand people's aspirations, key motivators, desires, goals, and needs, and use this invaluable information to inspire people and drive them into action. They know how to motivate people and increase their productivity by tapping into their inherent emotions. Emotionally intelligent people aren't just as negotiators and conflict resolvers, but are also known to make better and more sensible business decisions. They rely as much on their instinct and gut feeling, as well as on facts and logical arguments, while making tough decisions. The fact that emotional intelligence is a much sought-after skill in today's professional sphere is a foregone conclusion. The best part is, according to research, emotional intelligence can be boosted with practice, training, and implementation. It isn't a static measure of your abilities. Though emotional skills come naturally to human beings, there are plenty of things that can be done to boost your understanding and comprehension of emotions. This is even more valuable in the workplace, where a majority of relationships and professional decisions rely on teamwork, understanding, and communication. Here are some powerful ways to increase your emotional intelligence at work. Practice keen and focused listening while communicating with co-workers, managers, and team members. There is no substitute for listening to people when it comes to plugging in to what they are voluntarily sharing, as well as what they are leaving unsaid. Focus on asking questions to check your understanding rather than practicing your responses. When a co-worker, manager, or subordinate speaks to you, summarize everything they've said once they have finished speaking. Note, only once they have finished speaking. Question them if the summary is a right portrayal of what they intended to convey. This will eliminate any chances of misunderstandings and misinterpreted emotions. If you haven't understood them correctly, they can correct your understanding of the content. Ask relevant and appropriate questions to pin down people's true feelings and emotions. Ask people how they feel about a piece of information or a suggestion you made about something. Always get into the habit of asking people you work with how they truly feel about something. Ask people about their gut feelings about something. You'll be surprised at how accurate it can be at times. Emotions, gut feelings, and intuitions are often ignored at the altar of making more seemingly logical and rational decisions. At times, it is impossible to tell how a worker is reacting to a specific situation emotionally. You may not know how the person has taken to a situation, problem, or challenge at an emotional level. Ask the person to discover if you haven't figured it out. People are only too glad to share their emotions when someone asks, especially bosses and managers. This is also a good exercise in building emotional intelligence, since you are now keenly listening to the person. How do you react to an employee's communication as a manager or boss? Or how do you react to a co-worker's communication? Ensure that you react at two distinct levels. You react to facts and underlying emotions, desires, dreams, goals, aspirations, and so on that the person expresses. If you are observant and a keen listener, you will get all the information you need. If you can't comprehend the second level, which is about feelings and emotions, ask until your understanding is clear. Savvy enough to understand when you are being played or preyed upon. Some employees in our workplace will possess a high emotional intelligence. They will forever analyze your reactions while cleverly understanding precisely what you want to hear. Don't allow the misuse of the relationship building and connection for ill purposes. You aren't the only one reading books on emotional intelligence and social skills. Others are acquiring this potent information too, and you don't know how they intend to use it. Assertive. There is no need to accommodate every request that comes your way when you already have your priorities in place. Imagine a scenario where you are neck-deep in work and a co-worker requests you to complete their work because they are leaving early for the day. Be assertive and don't allow people to take you for granted. When you are not up for doing something or just don't have the time to accommodate more work in an already packed schedule, politely refuse. If standing up for yourself and your priorities doesn't make you a bad person, do not feel guilty about being true to your priorities. Be polite, firm, and courteous while refusing people. If you need more time to make up your mind, tell people if you aren't up to a task, rather than beating around the bush. Be straightforward and focus inward too. Emotional intelligence at work isn't simply about tuning into and managing other people's emotions. It is also about tuning into your emotions. Analyze your responses in varied emotional situations at work. Seek feedback from bosses, co-workers, and subordinates who you trust to respond with some measure of objectivity and balance. The idea is to seek unbiased and unprejudiced responses that give an accurate idea of your own thoughts, feelings, emotions, and behavior patterns. Actively seek feedback from your managers and bosses. Even if you are performing well, urge them to offer detailed and specific feedback about the things you are doing well and areas of improvement. Ask them about what they thought of your reaction in an increasingly emotional situation. As an emotionally intelligent worker, should be able to build sustainable and strong relationships in your workplace. Chapter 12. Emotional Intelligence and Leadership. An emotionally intelligent leader can develop leadership connections by accurately identifying and understanding the emotions of others. He or she knows how emotion plays out in their reaction and behaviors. Furthermore, they are not only politely sensitive towards the other. An emotionally intelligent leader comprehensively understands others and their situation. He or she thinks as they think and feels as they are feeling. On the other hand, empathy is not enough. For an effective leader, opening up their personality, feeling, and emotions is critical as well. Leaders will need emotional intelligence to keep out the negative emotions from the team. This will help them produce better outcomes and results. When there is a lack of emotional control, the team is crippled with poor productivity, more absenteeism, strained relationships at work, unattained business goals, and dreadful organizational turnover. Leadership emotional intelligence is simple and complicated at the same time. The emotionally intelligent people know what they are feeling and experiencing. Moreover, they understand how others may feel, respond, or react to a certain situation. For a leader, it is a challenge to be seen, heard, and understood. Their performance as a leader depends on their team's trust and cooperation, which is not possible without empathy and consideration. The leader is not only in charge of the team, but he or she is responsible for the team members and people under their leadership. For a leader, it is critical to understand what they are feeling and how the emotions will manifest. Emotional intelligence allows a leader to make healthy choices based on accurately understanding, identifying, and managing your feelings and the feelings of the others. An emotionally intelligent leader is self-aware, which implies that he or she is aware of their internal resources, capabilities, potential, and scope. Not only that, he or she becomes aware of their basic emotions and possible responses. The emotionally intelligent leaders can read the social cues in others, such as empathy and service orientation. The leader can motivate the team member by taking an interest in their development needs, emotional status, life, goals, and targets. The primary focus of the leader is to create a collaboration or bond within a team. In other words, for a leader, emotional intelligence means the ability to use their emotional knowledge and of others to ensure healthy choices. Emotional intelligence creates freedom for us to live and lead. A team is a collection of people who come and work from different backgrounds, values, beliefs, cultures, etc. But all the members of a team are mirrors for each other. For example, if there is someone who you find irritating in your team, first and foremost, it is vital to identify what is causing or contributing to that friction in your personality. In other words, to be an emotionally intelligent leader, a person has to overcome their perception. Being a change agent, change is part of human life, and as much as it can be difficult at times, it is inevitable. The world keeps evolving, which means that the needs and demands of people are constantly changing. Because of this, technology keeps advancing and more innovative solutions are being sorted. Not all these transformations occur on their own. A special kind of people called change agents cause them. Change agent, also referred to an agent of change, or change advocate or change champion, is an individual who initiates, supports, promotes, enables, persuades and affects new ideas, processes, procedures, systems or structures. Important to note down is that a true agent of change is not only passive to change, but also he or she is also actively involved in affecting change. Importance of having change agents. Change agents act like catalysts. They make the transition from the old to the new fast and easy. An organization, for example, uses a change agent to assist with a certain transition. Firstly, the agent is a mediator between the top-level managers who desire for a change to be effected and the employees who are supposed to transition to a new process, procedure or system. Secondly, the agent who happens to share the same vision as the managers also lead, guides, supports the employees throughout the transitions process and tackles any issues that might arise. Roles of a change agency. In addition to the above, an agent of change should carry out the following tasks. The agent of change must first understand the reason for the change. The change agent should then explain this reason and the importance of the transformation to the people. This champion should also publicize the intention for change. The change agent should mention the benefits of the transition as well as the downsides, if there are any. Any change advocate should expect to encounter disputes and resistance. If there is any friction along the way, the agent should be prepared to handle the situation. Our change agent should also collect information about the process and give feedback regarding the same if he is acting as a mediator, or note it down the information for himself if he is the sole initiator for the change. This person should also lend a listening ear to any concerns that are raised and relay the same to the initiator. The agent should then act as a mediator between the initiators and receptors until both parties agree on a way forward. Lastly, the agent should keep track of the objectives of change to see whether the cause has been successful. Characteristics of a change agent. It is, therefore, necessary that change agents should possess certain skill sets and characteristics so that they can effectively carry out and fulfill their role. They must be knowledgeable in the field they are in, creative in coming up with new ideas, patient in initiating change, trustworthy and credible, mature to handle people and situations, inflexible in terms of thinking and connecting with people, courageous when faced with resistance, good at communicating with other people, including listening to them, able to build relations with people. Steps to becoming a change agent. Having understood what it takes to be a change agent, here are a few guidelines on how an individual can start his or her journey towards being a change agent. A person should start by reflecting on some of the major changes that they have gone through or encountered or unknowingly affected. He or she should then bring themselves to understand who the change agent was and what role they played in those situations. The next step is to consciously pick on something or a cause to change. Afterward, the individual should study and work out a plan of going about the transformation. Finally, they should make the change. How to be an effective change agent. Any person who wishes to be an effective change agent and remain one for the long run must always keep in mind that effective change agents do the following. As huge change is normal, I participate in creating vision. They're always prepared for resistance. They're ready to influence, and that they track their results. People who are resistant to change risk slugging behind, but those who embrace it and take a step further to implement it rise up to become change agents. Interestingly, this role is not just for managers and executives only. Even employees who are not in positions of leadership can affect change. Perhaps being a change agent could be what propels them to top positions. Notably, the most effective leaders are emotionally intelligent, and people develop this skill by being an effective change agent. Accountability. The topic of accountability is difficult to broach in certain situations because many people do not understand what it is, where it starts, and why it is important. Accountability is the process of holding an organization, department, or individual to task for the performance of a certain task or function. They are answerable for the proper implementation of a specific task. Other parties or people expect the task to be completed, and the answerable party has to account if the task is not carried out satisfactorily. Some may understand its importance, but do not know how to put it into action. Accountability does not simply happen. It is something that has to be worked at. For example, financial accountants are responsible for the accuracy and integrity of financial statements. Some managers or directors may attempt to manipulate such statements without the accountant's knowledge, because their bonuses are usually tied to the company's income. This is why independent auditors conduct audits, and accountability forces them to review the financial statements carefully. All businesses need accountability. Without it, it is almost impossible to maintain integrity and growth. There are auditors, accountants, compliance departments, and a host of other financial professionals working to ensure corporations report their financial situations and earnings correctly. And when things go wrong, a responsible person or party pays for it. This is the essence of accountability. Truths about accountability. Leaders are accountable. All leaders or managers are accountable for any successes and failures their organizations may have. It is part of their job description, which is why some try to hide their failures. However, by attempting to evade accountability, most of them end up negatively affecting any accountability that already exists. Accountability starts with the management. Managers define their organization's business culture, and if they want to foster accountability, then it should start with them. They should create and encourage the behaviors or culture that they want to see in their organizations. Essentially, people will take ownership if the management does the same. Therefore, when leaders make a commitment, they have to make an effort to meet that commitment. If they do not make a visible effort, no one else will be interested in doing so. Accountability applies to everyone. When it comes to holding people accountable and fostering a culture of accountability, leaders cannot play favorites. They cannot punish some people and let it slide with others. Accountability needs to be expected of everyone at all times. If they go easy on certain people, it will open the door for others to ignore their accountabilities or to be selectively accountable. Accountability is not selective. Accountability should be constant and not a one-time thing. People who are afraid of being held accountable tend to look for any chance to avoid it if any opening in their accountability gives them the escape they need. They are only accountable when they want. One cannot delegate accountability. No one can delegate accountability. People need to accept it and take ownership, whether they want to or not. To get everyone to accept it, leaders need to set their subordinated up for success. Few people would accept accountability and take ownership of something they think will fail. Therefore, leaders should ask their juniors to say what they need to succeed. Those who ask for something will have taken a huge step towards taking ownership and accepting accountability. Leaders need to hold their subordinates accountable. Leaders cannot simply tell their subordinates that they are accountable and then leave it at that. It may work for a few. However, they need to do much more, such as checking in on progress and setting up review sessions. Accountability also gives them the opportunity to offer encouragement and praise, which build up people's confidence. Like most worthwhile things, people need to cultivate accountability with a clear and consistent strategy. It starts with the management and applies to everyone at all times. It is the difference between success and failure. When things go wrong due to lack of accountability, people evade ownership and watch things from the sidelines. If they thought it will get worse or fail, they often go into the blaming or I told you so mode, which usually leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy. On the other hand, when people accept accountability for difficult situations, they often step into resolution mode and start to try to fix things. When a leader creates and fosters a culture of accountability, their organization will start to hold others and itself accountable, which will have a positive impact on results and performance. Successful leaders empower the team of people they are supervising to take ownership and accept accountability while learning from those they are leading. They do not view their subordinates as drones who mindlessly do what they are told. Rather, they see them as partners who bring in additional perspective, experience, and wisdom, communication and conflict resolution. The performance and success of an organization can be largely dependent upon good communication. Promoting effective conflict resolution and managing healthy communication should be a top goal of all leaders. According to a study funded by Keepy in 2008, employees spend an average of 2.8 hours per week dealing with issues of conflict. When one takes into account all workers in the United States, this adds up to almost 385 million working days. This is a massive loss of productivity to conflict. We cannot classify sources of conflict according to their importance. However, most conflicts are the result of communication problems. Communication can fail when it offers too much information or when it incorporates threatening or unclear information. In addition, some structural variables, such as reward systems and bureaucratic factors, can also lead to conflict between groups or individuals. Personal behavior can also cause conflict. For example, the attitude or reaction of a person confronted with personally incompatible goals. Models of communication. The communication structure of an organization refers to the system in which communication or messages flow. In other words, models of communication are the patterns of communication among individuals who make up the organization. Communication is a vital component of conflict resolution because it goes a long way in minimizing the risk of generalizing and helps improve understanding. There are many forms and types of communication within the workplace. The two most important types are informal and formal communication. Formal communication refers to the system of sending messages or information through the formally designated pathways between individuals occupying different hierarchical positions. This type of communication can be either upward, downward, or horizontal. Informal communication, on the other hand, refers to those moments of interaction that lack a place within the formally designated pathways of interaction. This type of communication is an unavoidable and necessary aspect of work life. It contributes to a comfortable, relaxed working environment and deals with issues not handled by formal communication. However, it should not be a substitute for formal communication. Whenever there are conflicts involving ethical or legal issues within an organization, it might be advantageous to employ the services of a professional mediator. Professional mediators specialize in ensuring that conflicts are resolved amicably while helping to protect organizations from any legal action that could come up if the conflict is not properly handled. However, for run-of-the-mill conflicts within the organization, an in-house mediator can help, as long as both parties follow the laid-out conflict resolution rules. How to communicate and resolve conflict within an organization. Find a place and time when both parties can talk without interruption or being rushed. See, both parties should take turns listening and sharing. Both parties need to give each other the benefit of the doubt. Instead of having negative intentions, while sharing, each individual should keep it all about themselves instead of telling the other person what they did wrong. Both parties should listen carefully and not be thinking about their rebuttal or response. Otherwise, it would be impossible to listen actively. Each person should take turns sharing what he or she would like to do differently and see differently. Both parties should work together on a plan to achieve those changes. Each party should thank the other for collaborating and sharing. Essentially, parties in conflict should be descriptive and kind. Communication and conflict resolution are essential to happy and healthy relationships at home. In the workplace and beyond, people need to understand and adjust with each other to some degree to better relations and avoid conflict. Organizations and individuals must prevent fights and conflicts to avoid its negative consequences like unnecessary tensions, anxiety, and stress. Clear and straightforward communication plays a pivotal role in conflict resolution and management. Poor communication leads to avoidable misunderstandings and eventually fights or conflicts. By understanding what makes it difficult for people to share, determining reasons why it is good to share, and following the right process to do it more effectively and safely, people can begin to build healthier marriages and relationships. Communication can help avoid, prevent, control, manage, and solve any type of conflict. Good communication and conflict resolution are worth the effort, risk, and time. Goal setting and achieving. People need a good plan to achieve their goals. They must fiercely believe in their plan and act accordingly. No other route can lead to success. The value of goal setting is evident in numerous real-world and clinical settings. Everyone who wants to succeed in life should appreciate the importance of this process. People who remain passive or fail to set goals rarely thrive as human beings. According to Locker-Latham, the theory of goal setting is based on the assumption that conscious human behavior is driven and regulated by an individual's goals, and it affects his or her actions. In essence, people must decide what is beneficial to them and set conscious goals to achieve it. Importance of goal setting. In an organizational setting, goal setting increases organizational commitment and employee motivation. In addition, it affects the intensity of people's emotions and actions. This means that the more valued and complex a goal is, the harder people will work to achieve it, and the more successful they will be. In addition, belief and confidence in their own abilities will grow as they experience the positive emotions and success that accompany goal setting. In addition, goal setting encourages workers to look for better strategies and utilize their skills to enhance self-efficiency and improve success. The process of setting goals involves planning. In fact, people who think positively about their future tend to set loftier goals and the actions required to meet them. In addition, goal setting and achieving can help in the creation of an internal or personal locus of control. Principles of goal setting. Commitment. Commitment is about a person focusing on his or her goal and has the determination to achieve it. Achievement is most likely when one is committed, even when faced with difficulties or obstacles. When a committed individual discovers their performance is lacking, he or she is likely to work harder or change strategy to achieve it. Challenge. Goals should be challenging but doable to boost motivation to find smart solutions and enhance performance through higher self-satisfaction. On the other hand, unattainable goals can lead to feelings of frustration and dissatisfaction. Essentially, human beings are motivated by the anticipation of success and achievement. Therefore, people who make challenging, yet achievable goals are more likely to push themselves harder to meet their goals. Clarity, specific, and clear goals put people on a direct course to success. On the other hand, vague goals have a low motivational value. Therefore, you must set unambiguous, specific, and clear goals that are measurable and implicit to have a better grasp of the tasks. People need to know exactly what is expected of them, and the resulting achievement will be an added source of motivation. Feedback. Immediate and accurate feedback is necessary for more effective goal setting. Both internal and external feedback can help people understand the level to which they are meeting their goal and what they need to improve. Clear feedback ensures that proper action is taken if needed. If feedback shows that one's performance is lacking in any way, One should do whatever is necessary to meet one's goals or set other, more achievable goals. Numerous studies prove that goal setting increases the likelihood of fulfilling one's ambitions. It also goes a long way into closing or narrowing the gap between one's abilities and the desired achievements. In addition, pursuance of a goal is an important prerequisite to an individual or team's motivation to achieve and self-regulate in any environment. When applied correctly, goal setting is often critical and effective when it comes to success. Goals provide the necessary direction by aiming goal-oriented behavior and attention while turning people away from unnecessary distractions and tasks. As with other management and success tools, goal setting works better when applied with smart managerial judgment because, with adequate foresight, and a team can prevent or overcome an obstacle entirely. Fast decision-making. People make numerous decisions every day on matters such as what to take for breakfast, what to wear, what to watch on television, where to go for dinner, and many more small decisions. Such decisions sound simple enough. However, they can start to pile up, making it difficult for them to make more important decisions. Consequently, most people either make important decisions while distracted or put them off. Neither of these situations is ideal. Therefore, you must get rid of the anxiety and mind clutter to make smarter decisions faster. Like everyone else, entrepreneurs need to develop a fast decision-making process if they want their businesses to grow. They cannot expect to stay in the decision-making process forever, since the end of the process is a decision. The success of an entrepreneur depends on a fast decision-making process, since there are always competitors who can make the decision before them. A good business opportunity will not have value for an entrepreneur if he or she does not make decisions that will help themselves take advantage of that opportunity. In addition, a fast decision-making process will help them implement needed actions related to the opportunity. Human lives are defined by people's ability to choose or make decisions. Everything, including health, relationships, and careers, boils down to the decisions one made in the past. Unfortunately, most people still struggle with decision-making. Some may have many options, access to information, and all the advantages in the world, but when the time to decide comes, they still seize up. Such people are often labeled as perfectionists, overthinkers, slow to act, or procrastinators. They experience a sort of analysis paralysis. People who can identify with any of these labels should do everything possible to fix their decision-making process. How to make decisions fast. Some of the hacks to start making fast decisions in one's professional and personal life include: use the 2-minute rule. This rule forces one to make a fast decision through a self-imposed time limit. Anyone can incorporate this rule by simply setting a timer and beginning the process. The deadline forces one to analyze the advantages and disadvantages quickly and make a decision within a very short time. This tip is simple and accessible and is ideal for people who are simply slow when it comes to making decisions. However, the time limit does not have to be 2 minutes. Anything from 1 to 5 minutes should also work fine. Think good or bad sometimes. People come across more options than they need, which can lead to analysis paralysis. The excess of anything can be overwhelming to most people. Those who find themselves in such a situation should judge their options simply as white or black, which will quicken and simplify the process of eliminating the less desirable decisions. This approach works best for those who tend to overanalyze and question each decision to death. Choose at random when all choices seem to have the same value. Choosing at random will save a lot of time. One can simply write down the best options on pieces of paper and put them in a bag. One can then pull out one piece of paper at random, and that will be the decision. This tip is ideal for those who have numerous unimportant decisions to make. Focus on what is most urgent. It is easy for the big picture to overwhelm you, especially when one tries to think about the outcome of any decision and how it will affect the future. Usually, people find themselves trying to match every choice with its possible outcome, which is a mentally exhausting process. One should, therefore, save that mental energy for the most urgent task and simply try to take the wisest steps possible. Essentially, one should live in the moment, boldly face the possibility of failure. One of the biggest fears for most slow decision-makers is the idea of making the wrong choice and failing. Consequently, they overcompensate by overthinking each option, thereby questioning each step involved in making a decision. In the end, they run the risk of ending up without a decision since they waste energy and time on unnecessary questioning. Instead, people should understand that delaying tactics could be worse than choosing the wrong option since it is possible to learn from mistakes and correct them. However, failing to make a decision means one will miss a chance to determine how one's life unfolds. An individual's independence and happiness may depend on one's ability to make fast decisions. By failing to make a decision, one is saying yes to every situation in one's life. Life is a series of decisions, and everything in one's present situation relates to a series of decisions one made. Fast decision-making increases the complexity and number of decisions one can address. It places individuals and organizations in a position to earn the most from decision timing. The speed of decision-making needs to increase or the situation changes before one's decision can have a positive effect. Conclusion: the elements of emotional intelligence tell a lot about what you need to do to boost your EK. The first step you need to take is to be self-aware about your emotions. You cannot understand what others are feeling if you cannot comprehend your emotions. Through self-awareness, you will realize that your emotions will not only affect you, but also other people. Begins by first recognizing that it is vital for you to keep your feelings in check. Comparably, you should work on self-managing your emotions. This demands that you should know the right manner of expressing yourself. In other words, you should know when to react and how to react depending on the situation you are faced with. Another element of EQ is social skills. For you to consider yourself as emotionally witty, you ought to embody ideal social skills. People should see you as an example with regards to how you socialize with them. Your communication skills should define the type of person you are. More importantly, it should tell other individuals that you are an empathic person who is intrinsically motivated to succeed in life. We all have emotions to deal with in our everyday lives. Whether at home or at work, there are emotions we need to manage. This means that our style of coping with these feelings will have an impact on our lives in many ways. For instance, when one is aware of their emotional abilities, they can tune themselves to share blissful relationships with others. Happy relationships can only be shared by people who understand each other. For you to live a happy life with other people, you need to begin by seeking joy within you. Consequently, this means that there is a dire need for you to boost your EQ. There is no doubt how powerful motivation is and the value it has on an individual's emotional intelligence. Every leader must strive to develop intrinsic motivation or achieve self-motivation in everything he or she does, especially in situations where his or her followers can witness. One of the advantages of this is regardless of the outcome of a team's efforts, a leader will stay focused on what is important because their fulfillment is in the process, not just the results. Furthermore, when relating to everyone in his or her environment, a leader needs to be empathetic. Some of the demands you might have on your followers might be normal and reasonable, but if your level of empathy is low, you might not have the time or motivation to find out why some are failing. Team members and followers are all human beings, and they can go through tough times and fail to accomplish even the simplest of tasks. Hopefully, this audiobook has opened a completely new pathway for you to see that there is more to leadership and success than simply being the smartest or the most academically intelligent person in the room. It runs so much deeper than that, and it comes down to what kind of characteristics you display as a sign of your emotional intelligence. How well you can regulate your emotional actions and the emotions and actions of those around you to take the necessary steps that put you a step further to success. Increasing your emotional intelligence not only helps you create meaningful relationships with other people, but it increases your chances of succeeding in life. How is this possible? Knowing how you feel and managing your emotions will develop a positive outlook about your life. You will always have a reason to live and see the next day. The strong bonds that you create with other people will motivate you to value experiences over material things. Your innate motivation will drive you to perceive life in ways that other people might not understand. To you, succeeding will not be an option but a necessity in your life. Mastering your emotions will indeed bring many benefits to your life. Besides fostering meaningful relationships in your life, you will always gain from the desirable values you will be generating. Emotional intelligence is a skill that we must work at. Some might contend that are born with it. I believe that it is like any other skill that can be mastered. The period in which we live is in a constant state of change. We are faced with challenges that our ancestors who came before us never even dreamed of dealing with. Mastering your own emotional intelligence is a key to becoming successful with your family, friends, and business life. This audiobook is a way to learn emotional skills to navigate through life. It is not the end-all be-all, but it can be a good start. The key is to practice, drill, and rehearse your way through things until you attain emotional mastery. You cannot expect change to happen overnight, but you can make small progress every day until one day you wake up and things just click. The main thing is to keep a positive attitude, and you will attain a high level of emotional intelligence.